strong Northern Italy, world famous for its beautiful scenery and cities. You'll also find the mesmerizing town of Cremona that has been famous for many reasons other than racing. On the Piazza del Comune sits the magnificent Cremona Cathedral that has stood since the 11th century, and the creative talents of violin manufacturing as well. But this is the season opener. It is round 1 of 2025 at the Cremona circuit that will hear the new sounds of IAME X30 engines reverberating over the farmlands here. Year of opening 2015, event record set by Meryl Peldis with a 49.113. That was done in free practice on Thursday. No one has been able to beat that purely because it's been raining. The track itself, 235 meters down the main straight, the back straight 150 meters. Total track length 1,210. Track width around 8 to 10 meters and an elevation change of around 4. But it is a relatively flat circuit here in the north of Italy. Turns though, 15 of them, 10 to the right, 5 to the left, plus those 4 hairpins out on the circuit. Each and every one of those corners provides ample overtaking opportunities. We see them in towards turns 3, 4, 5, turn 8, 11 and 12. We've even seen the occasional through turns 13, 14 and as well through turns 1 and 2, but they seem to be the risky places to do it. The top speed though, drivers reaching and topping out at 123 kilometers an hour into the braking zone of turn number 1, averaging around 87 kilometers around the entirety of the lap. It is a technical circuit, it is a demanding circuit, but all the way throughout this weekend we have seen some topsy-turvy racing with those conditions. Yesterday when the rain came down in the morning, it was challenging. It then went away. We then had mixed conditions, drivers trying to switch over onto the slick tyres when the track wasn't fully ready. Well, I can tell you right now, the track is wet for the Superheats, and that is what's going to be coming up next. Mini X30 Superheat 1, 10 laps for their 12-kilometer race distance. Myself, Anthony Jordan, and Guillaume Alvarez in the box. Guillaume, yesterday was a pretty hectic day. Today, however, is a new day, and I suspect we're going to see some pretty dramatic races.
Certainly so. Buongiorno a tutti, everybody. Welcome to Cremona. A pleasure to be here for the opener of the IAME Euro Series. The rain radar on your screen. A lot of clouds above our heads. It has been the case yesterday, as you said, different conditions evolving through the day. Not the easiest of track grip levels for those drivers competing as part of the IAME Euro Series. Up to almost 200 entries competing here for the opener of a new season. 11 degrees Celsius in the air. The track is mostly wet, drying on the racing line, but still some patches out there.
Well, it's currently raining.
It is currently raining, yeah.
But I think that our timing screen says it is raining on that one. But a busy day yesterday, and especially for this young man here, George Howe, starting this one on pole position. Here's what he had to say after his qualifying heats.
I'm here with George Howe. George, well done to you. 2 times winner, leader, and pole sitter for tomorrow. How do you feel after that good day at the office?
Amazing, it was really good. I think we're really fast. I like that condition of the track. It was really fun to drive in.
Well, that's the first time that we get to hear from one of the drivers that it was very, very fun, because we've had all sorts of conditions. Were you able to keep your head down during those sometimes very difficult races?
Yeah, it was quite a big crash, I think, at the start, but I dodged it and then just kept going on and then chased and caught them too, and then went in and then got the lead and then won, which was good.
That was good. One last step away, Superheat, the final. A good night of sleep in between, and then you'll be ready on form tomorrow?
Yep, definitely.
Well, great to chat there to George House, like you say, ending his day yesterday at the top of the intermediate classifications with 144 points to his name. He just beat this man to the top spot, Austin Newstead, who will also be starting on the front row of the grid. Brilliant day for him yesterday. Not the greatest qualifying for him. He qualified 22nd overall. However, he certainly made up for it in those qualifying heats. 2 qualifying heat wins. And then he did suffer a little bit in his third one, getting squeezed off the circuit. But he's not let that affect him. And like you say, he starts this one on the front row of the grid. It's a busy second row as well. Milan Baku with some really strong results. Never been outside the top 5 over the course of this weekend. And the same for Daniel Ferguson, who qualified 4th overall on Friday. All the karts fire up. One going a little slow at the back there, but every single one of those 19 karts has lit up. and headed out onto the track. Let's take you through that full starting lineup then. George House with those 2 race wins and a second place yesterday puts him on pole position for today's racing alongside Austin Newstead. Milan Baku and Daniel Ferguson go from row number 2. They'll have Aurelio Longatano and Charles Clough, who goes from row number 3. Colby Patterson and George Clark go from row 4. They'll have the likes of Win Godschalk and Charles Ural on row 5. Alan Buchhofer and Alexander Freitberg go from row number 6.
And we have on row number 7 Theo Pelfreni and Elias Sami. Row number 8 Andy Stewart and Nahil Padovani. Followed on row number 9 by Sacha Miras, Baptiste Augustin, and at the back end of the grid, Oliver Waithians. A total of 19 drivers that we have on that grid for Superheat number 1. There will be 2 Superheat for each of the 3 classes that we have on track. The principle is simple. All the drivers that made it through the qualifying heats of yesterday, 24 races on Saturday, 3 for the seniors just on the Friday. But in the end, the drivers qualified for the Superheat are split in half. And then the drivers that will make it to the cut for the final, where only the 36 best competitors are allowed, will be cut in half once again. Here's a view on the race control with Joanna Falcao, David Manchester as well, that we have with all eyes onto the screen. That's going to be an interesting day of racing, that's for sure. And you need that amount of cameras, something like 30 different cameras surrounding the track. All eyes on the action on and off the circuit. And with the race director, Mr. Martin Bede, on the gantry, just over the racing start-finish straight. I think it was Danny Curl that we saw on the camera, former world champion at PFI back in 2017. Danny Curl mechanicking for one of the British teams competing this weekend for the past few years. Here's Martin Bean with Chris Lambrecht, the head of the officials for the IAME Euro Series. Is the one, Mr. Martin Bean, deciding who gets to go racing or not, depending on the formation of the starting grid. 2 formation laps to get those tires up to temperature. Not an easy task, but once those 2 formation laps are completed, the drivers get together towards the start-finish line. And once the lights go out, we'll be good to go for racing. The minis will have to go through 10 laps for the respective Superheat, 11 laps for the juniors, and 14 for the seniors.
Yes, indeed. Well, as you can see, it is absolutely horrid out there. Lots of standing water off the track as well. But there you can see some of the hard-working marshals who are bracing those conditions over the course of this weekend. We could not go racing without that fabulous orange army. And the same as, of course, the camera crews as well. I mean, we could go racing without the camera crews, but we couldn't bring you these fantastic pictures that you see here without the camera crew, and of course all the production crew as well working behind the scenes. But here we go then into the last couple of corners. We go with the first race of the day as we pass the red line there. No overtaking is permitted. There's a look at the current points as they stand right now, but they will change to find out who's going to be starting where for the final later on today. Here we go then into the tram lines. The spray will kick up. We're about to go racing. Lights are out and we go racing down in towards turn number 1. It's a good start for George House on the inside line, but it's not going to hold on to that lead. Milan Baku goes through on the inside, but there, watch them as they switch positions, because now Austin Newstead goes through, and there's carnage in the background. Is that Milan Baku from the front row, who has suffered massively in that one? He's gone to the back of the grid, but albeit at the front of the field, it is a clean start for the rest of them, and I think that might be the likes of Austin Newstead, who managed to get the sweep through turn 1 as he takes the lead now through the chicane.
Yes, indeed. Austin Newstead, your first leader of that first Superheat of the day. 10 races on schedule. And Austin qualified only 22nd on Friday, manages his way through to the qualifying heats. And once again, nailing the starting procedure in the opening 2 corners. You can see the Fusion driver up in the lead in front of Josh House or Paul Sitter. But Milan Beku, what a shame for the Belgian driver from SGP Racing Team. Nowhere to be seen within the top 3 or top 5 positions after his spin outside of turn number 2. We'll get to see where the young Belgian has fallen into that classification. But as you can clearly see on screen, the conditions are far from easy, as we do have an investigation for Austin Newstead, our leader, the 406, being investigated by the officials. Something to do maybe with the starting procedure. Maybe we might need to see that again, but where some wheels outside of the corridors, it remains to be confirmed at this point in time. But Newstead, Josh House in the lead in front of Daniel Ferguson. And we have Aaron Buchhofer up into P4. 7 places claimed for the number 468 from Pattison, Longitano, Colchalk, climbing 2 places up to 7 from Clark, Augustin, and Milan Beku all the way down to P10.
Well, race now calming down onto lap number 2 here as the drivers get themselves sorted out. You can see the top 5, as you've just explained, having a good little scrap. There, though, P6, that's where it's getting interesting. George Clark and Wyn Gottschalk under pressure from each other. Now, Wyn Gottschalk, of course, the winner of the IAME Winter Cup earlier on this year in Valencia, has suffered this weekend. He enjoyed the sunshine in Spain. He has not enjoyed the wet, rainy conditions here in northern Italy, and it has played with his racing so far this weekend. But he is still fighting fit in this one, and he is still in contention, of course, for that final. 37 drivers had entered into this weekend into the Mini X30 category. You have to remember, 36 are allowed to go into that final, and one driver who is going to struggle to get into that final at this race is Baptiste Augustin, who now tumbles down to 19th place in this race. He's clearly had a moment out on circuit. I think he might be okay to get into that final. Only one driver is going to get eliminated. That's going to be the most horrible thing for that one driver, to think they're right at the back of the points and they just didn't get enough points to get through into that final. But we'll have to wait and see. Eyes on the front then, top 5 still absolutely fine. And it is still George House who leads the points right now as he sits there in second place with 224. If he drops back in this race, that might affect him. But at this moment, he's looking good to be starting on pole later on today.
Yeah, he's looking good indeed. George House, 224 points, as you can see. A little bit of a clear advantage on Hossein Newstead. Keep in mind that this classification is based on the results of the Superheat and the qualifying heats. And basically, the winner of that race here get 90 points, 80 for the second, 72, 66, and so on and so on. And those points will be added to those collected through the qualifying heats. And when it comes to the overall classification before the final, the leader will get 25 points for the championship, and another 50 for the final later on. So that's for the calculation coming our way at the end of those qualifying heats. What counts now, not only the point for the championship, but also to find yourself as high as possible in the starting grid for the final. George House at this point holds the overall leadership and pole position for the final. If he can stay where he is for now, depending on the results on the Superheat number 2 that will come just after this one. Hossein Newstead climbing through the ranks through the qualifying heats, doing a superb job with almost a full second advantage on George House. Here's the battle further down the classification, and this is Ferguson in third place, being chased by Bierhofer. Those two currently Ferguson outside, P3 in the classification. Bierhofer climbing to P7 and is missing just 1 point to find himself within the top 6. And that 1 point is gonna go get it as soon as turn number 1. Not quite happening yet, as we're hitting the halfway mark into this first Superheat of the day, into turn number 3. One of the many spots of overtaking here in Cremona. Watch out for that corner, but also turn number 5, as well as turn number 8, the hairpin at the end of that long straight on the other side of the circuit, heading towards the last segment of the circuit. Here is the breaking point of turn number 8. Watch out for any of the drivers opening that door and into sector number 3, turn number 11, 12, and even the last 2 right-handers have been providing us with some nice overtaking moves over the course of the qualifying heats since Friday. But at this point, Anthony, it's fair to say that those conditions at this point of the weekend are not allow the drivers to take too many risks.
No, exactly that. They have to stay pretty much in formation. As a nice little change there, Bierhofer down the inside of Daniel Ferguson, retakes that third place spot and can now go on the charge towards George House, who is just that little further up the road. All the meanwhile, while they were battling like that, the likes of Colby Patterson for the XL Motorsport team has started to close in as well. Now he's about 5.5 seconds off Newstead, who has been setting the fastest laps of the race, 109.462, dramatically slower than what we saw at the end of the day yesterday, of course, where we saw the slick tyres out on track. Here's another good little scrap here. George Clark, he is also bringing on the likes of Wyn Gottschalk just behind. Aurelio Longitano is there, as well as Charles Clough, who are all pushing their way forward in this order. Nice little run as they head down in towards turn number 8. Bit of a defensive line there for Longatano as he holds off the likes of Gottschalk on the exit of turn number 8. And you can see him now trying to squeeze his way more towards the likes of George Clark further up the road. Again, for these drivers, nearly all of them, of these drivers that we're seeing here, they're going to get through to the final as Gottschalk again just switches through and gets back past into P7. They're all making it to the final. It's only that one driver who's not making it at this moment. I don't fully know who that is. I need to look at the full classification. I'm sure we can find out who is the driver who's in the danger zone at the moment.
That's Oliver Wenchins,
right.
Spanish driver, the 446.
Okay, and the 446 right now is currently circulating in 19th place at the moment, which is unfortunately at the back of the field. So Waitians is the driver who is at risk here. So all of these drivers, yes, they could battle away a position here, a position there. Could benefit them gaining one place maybe in the order, but all of them, bar one, will make it into that final. Down in towards turn number 8 once more. This is getting still very close here. Ferguson has not dropped off the back of Buhofer. They are still line astern right now. And I suspect they're not going to be able to close in on the likes of George House. He is still clear by around 3.5 seconds or so from these two. And you can see him there just going through your shot. So Buhofer and Ferguson, they will stay pretty much third and fourth for the time being. The question is of Patterson, Clark, Gottschalk, Longatano, Clough, Baku, who are all there. Baku, remember, he's on a recovery drive here right now, and he's actually back into 10th place. He dropped right to the back of the field, so he's having a really good race. Eyes on these two, and Ferguson just again not going for the move, thinking against it, albeit running a little bit wide there, out of turn 1 and 2.
Too wide.
Now he's going to go for the move on the inside. He's going to try and hook that inside curb. Not going to work out for him. Can't get the power on the exit. But again, another attempt, a good attempt, but just not close enough.
Yeah, Ferguson clipping the curb on the inside of that hairpin at turn number 3, trying to make a difference outside of 4. But it didn't just happen yet. Picking up quickly on the drivers at threat. Oliver Wenson is indeed driver number 37 when it comes to the points, but he only has 2 points. He's only 2 points behind Baptiste Augustin and Max Cruz. We'll get to see Max Cruz competing for the race coming up. But Baptiste Augustin is in P16 currently, so that might have an influence, obviously, on the order coming towards the final phase. We'll get those calculations down once the Superheats are behind us, but it's never easy to find yourself at the queue of such a long list of drivers, especially when there's only one place for unqualified driver. Here's a replay from a beautiful overtaking move from the inside from the 438, and the switch from the 422, beautifully made by Colton Pattinson in front of George Clark, I think might have been, as he keeps on battling at every step of the way here as we get ourselves clear and near the checkered flag of this first run of the day.
Yes, indeed. We are on lap 9 of 10 for the moment, and the drivers at the front of this field now just trying to bring these karts to the end of this race. And exactly what you were talking about there, this battle here, Colby Patterson and George Clark still line astern, as these two have been scrapping away during this race to try and see who can be the best out of these two, both knowing that they are into that final. But just seeing who can beat who in this race. There you can see the scrap just further ahead. Daniel Ferguson and Buhofer still line astern, the Spirit Racing driver, just keeping control of this one as Patterson and Clark once more are wheel to wheel, and Colby Patterson looking to the inside there. Nice little switch over, and Patterson's going to have to relinquish that spot. George Clark going on to the final lap, takes over 5th place, and now has the clean air to try and break away. But I suspect that battle will still rage on over the course of this final lap. We will have to wait and see, though, as Austin Newstead, who is clear now by 2.4 seconds, there he is on your screen. He's heading down into turn number 8. You can see what it's done to his points. 212 points now. He cannot beat George House. House is still online to start on pole position, potentially for that final later on. Of course, there is still another qualifying heat to go, but I don't think anyone can beat House in the points on this one. But Newstead is now making that statement of, these are the conditions we've been dealt today, and this is what I can do in these said conditions. To the final corner then, Austin Newstead makes his way round the final corner. He will be the first to see the checker flag on finals day here in Cremona. It's Austin Newstead across the line. He will help himself out massively to potentially start on that front row for the final later on today. But George House, with his 224, I think has done enough there with that P2 to secure pole position for that final later on today in Mini X30. That's due to start at 1:30 local time here in Italy, so make sure you set your alarms, or better yet, don't go anywhere, because we have still got another mini superheat to go. 2 more for the juniors, and of course the 2 for seniors, plus the Consolation race that'll be coming out before the lunch break. But as the field makes their way back into Parc Ferme, here's a look at that full classification. Austin Newstead and George House, number 1 and 2 from Aaron Buchhofer, Daniel Ferguson from George Clark, Wyn Gottschalk from Colby Patterson, Milan Baku, Charles Ural and Charles Clough from Ilias Sami rounding out the top 11. Aurelio Longatano from Tio Palfrain, Andy Stewart, Alexander Freitberg, Baptiste Augustin, Nahil Padavani, Oliver Waitians, and Sasha Miras rounding out the 19 runners in that race. All carts started, all carts finished, which is good to see. We've not seen many of those over the course of this weekend with the challenging conditions, but there, that young man, Austin Newstead, has delivered a good result. There, though, is the man you want to see. George Clark, who has had or George House, sorry, I should say, who's had a very strong day for the XL Motorsport team and a strong weekend. He is looking to be starting on pole position for that final later on today. Well, Guillaume, that's one race down. One more to go for the minutes before their final. Here's some of the highlights from it. Relatively calm race, controlled race for many. This start, though, vital. Watch there, Newstead round the outside, sweeping it in, cutting it in at the last second, and goes from about 3rd to 4th. There was the unfortunate moment for Milan Baku off the circuit. Great kart control there as well from one of the Spirit Racing karts. Possibly could have been Buchhofer as well. Later on, it could have been Aurelio Longatano, I think, had a moment. Yeah. So, yeah, great racing from them. But the racing continued, and from that point on, micro battles here and there, but a relatively calm race.
Yeah, definitely. As we said, the conditions would not allow the drivers to take too many risks. All they want to do is to make it to the checker flag in one piece and secure for themselves that position spot on the grid, knowing that only one driver will not qualify for the final, but still you want to find yourself in the ideal position coming to the most important race of the weekend. A confirmation that Aurelio Longatano, the Swiss driver from Spirit Racing, was the one clashing with Milan Baku into that turn number 2. It dropped all the way to P12, unfortunately, but micro battles here and there as well, with that one coming to the later stages of that superheat. George House on the inside, the crossing from the 438 of George Clark against Daniel Ferguson. It was the battle for what would be P4 in the end. In the lead, Austin Newstead was uncatchable, not even by our qualifying heat leader George House, 2.1 seconds behind for the British driver, still holding on to that overall lead, and the calculations being made. That's pole position confirmed for George House when it comes to the final, if it stays like that. And interestingly, with that win in the bag and the 90 points that comes with it, Austin Newstead finds himself second at 212 points. But watch out for the next one, because we do have 2 drivers on the front row of that grid. The first one on pole position is Mathis Brageau, and the other one is Mason Brooks. And according to my calculations, if one of those 2 wins, if Mathis Brageau wins that race, he will be on the front row of the final coming to this afternoon. And if Mason Brooks wins as well, it will be on equal points as Austin Newstead. That's the theory. Let's see in practice. But before we get racing, let's hear from Mathis Brageau yesterday at the end of the day.
Mathis, congratulations, bravo. That was a good day for you. Good battle with George. Can you talk us through that last race? And you missed the win for not much.
Yeah, I can win, but in the chicane I try to go to pass him in the outside, but it's a little bit wet, so it's slide. So yeah.
You've been one of the fastest drivers all around today, second in the classification, with a good chance to start in the front for the superheat. That gives you confidence for tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm really confident, because now I know the fight, so in the wet or in the slick, so yeah.
You know the fight, you know the drivers, and you know the circuit as well, much better now.
Yes, but in the first day here, I don't know the track, so yeah, now it's better.
Well, good to chat there to Mathis Brageot, who is the one driver who could really shake up things for the front row for that final. And let's take you through that full starting lineup for this Super Heat 2 in Mini X30. Mathis Brageot and Mason Brooks going from row number 1. Lorenzo Di Pierantonio goes from row 2. He'll be joined by Christian Kobe. Harry Williams goes from row 3. He'll have Alex Riley alongside. Then it'll be Mason Hibbert and Johnson Stewart on row number 4. Henry King and Abram Shelvis round out row number 5.
Row number 6, Kim Min-hao and Denver Boss. Row number 7, Stanislas Yarko and Luis Paternot. Row number 8, Mathis Nobs and Milo Cornil. And at the end of that grid, Ole Sorli and Max Cruz. Ninth row on the grid, 18 drivers. We do have everybody on track as well. And as we mentioned earlier, Max Cruz at the back end of that grid at the wheel of his Alonso machine is one of the drivers in the danger zone at the back end of that classification after the qualifying heats. The two drivers concerned as well with a good chance, unfortunately, for one of them missing out on the qualification for the final, where Oliver Weichens and Baptiste Augustin will wait for the results to be made official before leading to conclusions. But the conditions remain the same here. Wet tires are very much on for the competitors of the mini class, aged between 8 and 12 years, 10 laps to go through once again. And as you said, Anthony, Mathis Brageot, if he wins that one, well, he will have a good shot at the overall victory, finding himself on the front row of the grid. But Mason Brooks has other ideas in mind, certainly. He will be alongside on the outside line coming to the turn number 1. And we have seen throughout the course of the weekend that in those conditions, pole position is certainly not the advantage it's supposed to be, considering how fast the first right-hander can be. The outside line has been on some occasions providing a good opportunity of overtaking for the driver going the long way around. Let's see if Mason Brooks will be able to do that. He's going to have the pressure of Christian Combi and Lorenzo Di Pierantonio behind, one of the many Italian drivers competing on home soil. And there's a lot of Fusion Motorsport teammates up in the classification of that starting grid, 4 in a row with Brooks, Di Pierantonio, Kobe and Harry Williams. Let's see how things will play out between the teammates, because as we say on numerous occasions, it's about their respective ambitions and results, but you want to go the way of the team at some point when the result requires.
Certainly so. Well, very nice and early on in this formation lap. They've got themselves slowed down in 2x2 formation and all that good stuff way before the red line. They're approaching that line now. So this is all good to see for potentially a first-time start for the front row here. Mason Brooks and Mathis Brageot. Spirit Racing versus Fusion Motorsport. Once again, these two teams have been going absolutely wheel to wheel over the years, and oh dear, that's not gone too well, and I think we'll be going round again. We are indeed, so that looked good. But then for some karts, they didn't get going at all. And one of those was the XL kart that just did not get off the line at all there. Now, that's possibly Johnson Stewart or Henry King, one of those drivers who didn't get the good getaway, but I can't quite see the kart number. It's the spray. A little bit too much there for the cameras for me to see those numbers. Right, so they'll head round again once more time. We just want to go over some of the drivers that we've got in this one, because there's been already in the 2025 season some really strong results. In that previous race, we were talking about Win God's Chalk, of course, the winner of the Winter Cup in 2025. You also had, in this race, you've got Harry Williams. He was P1 here last weekend for the IAME Open Games that was held here at Cremona. So Harry Williams for the United Kingdom is a driver that you should really keep an eye on, because he knows how to get these karts around a final situation here. But of course, he was P10 last year in the IAME Euro Series, and he's wanting a better start to his season this time around as well. Charles Clough, another driver who we've been seen racing this weekend, not in this race, in the previous race, but second in the Winter Cup as well. So lots of drivers in here that have already got titles to their names and good results. Here we go then. back towards the tram line. Second time's a charm. Is everyone going to get on the power nice and early? The answer to that is yes. It looks good to me. And we are lights out and racing down towards turn number 1. And it is once again a good start for the inside row. But no, it's all got a bit petong there. And unfortunately for Mathis Brageau, he has tumbled down the order. He's still on the lap. It's a gaggle of fusion carts. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 now that lead the train as the rest of the field all tried to scrap for the remaining positions. There you can see as well one of the XL carts that's managed to get himself up into that order. I think that could be Alex Riley, the Irishman in the 417, who's had a relatively decent start as Mason Brooks is going absolutely wheel to wheel with his teammate as they go through. But Christian Kobe, I think, in the 412 has got the lead of this race. As at the big spin, and the Fusion teammates wipe each other out. 3 of them off the circuit, 1 of them Mason Brooks, 1 of them Christian Kobe. And I think Lorenzo Di Pierantonio was the other who was involved in that incident at turn number 8, albeit now it is the likes of, well, I'm not too sure actually who's leading the way there. It might be Harry Williams in the 410 who could be leading the way, but we'll find out when they cross the line. But a very shaky start there for the Fusion team.
Yeah, talking about an hectic opening lap of that qualifying heat, and we had enough as well for 2 drivers on the way to turn number 6 and 7, just before that big coming together in the hairpin. Harry Williams is your new leader, 0.6 of a second from Mason Hybert, who couldn't ask for more to put himself in P2. Alex Riley down in P3. Then we have Mathis Brageau still alive in this race. Let's take a look back
congratulations.
of what
Bravo.
happened here in the opening stages. Mathis Brageau down in P4, 5th place for Johnson Stewart. Then we have Stanislas Yarko, Abraham Skelvy, Sorley in P8, P9 for Luis Paternot, and then the boss. Where are the Fusion drivers, you may ask? In a second, the first off on the outside here, 2 drivers at the back end, the 470 and the 457. But look at it, Milo Cornil as well as Kim Minard coming together, but able to continue, and then that big coming together into the hairpin. And look at the amount of water. There's a lot of standing water surrounding the track on both sides of the circuit. Once you find yourself in there, well, this is pretty much a race over.
I don't like pointing a finger there, but Harry Williams, who is your current race leader on this one, looked to me like you got a little bit feisty there under braking. And I think may have kick-started that moment at turn number 8. He is leading the way right now. He is in control of this race. And there is a look at the points. Like we were saying, Mathis Brageau was the only driver really able to affect the top starting row for the final. He had to win the race, effectively, to be able to change that. There you can see now he is down in 3rd place. He hasn't got the points needed to affect that front row. So George House and Austin Newstead at this moment are still in line to start that final on the front row of the grid. However, it is not done yet until the checker flag goes out in the beginning of this race. So it's still Williams and Hibbert, still 1-2. Brageau still there in 3rd place. Riley, Stewart, Shelvis, Zarco, and Simstad still rounding out in the top 8. Paternotte and Di Pierantonio rounding out the top 10 right now. But definitely a shakier start on this one, as now you're going to see drivers who had that earlier spin try to make their way back up the order. And there you are seeing Lorenzo Di Pierantonio trying to push his way through. And he has managed to get through, and now the drivers behind are all scrapping over themselves. There is Mathis Brageau closing in on Mason Hibbert. This is the battle for 2nd place, Guillaume, and this is an important one, because if Brageau can get through, which he's going to try to do so through turns number 3 and 4, he will help himself out in that intermediate classification.
Yeah, 2nd place is worth 80 points, which means that it's a little bit more than the 3rd. It's actually 8 points more than the 3rd position of that race, which means that indeed Mathis Brageau, if he stays where he is, will be back up into 2nd place on the front row coming to the final. So in a way, this is a scenario that maybe the young Frenchman had been expecting to see some of his closest rivals, like Mason Brooks, getting into trouble, for him to have a relatively quieter race and to be able to secure the results he need. Being in 2nd position, he doesn't need to push too much to try to get Harry Williams, but at the same time he has to go defensive, because he has Hybert and Riley as well as Stewart not far behind, ready to give him the chase. So a little bit in a dilemma. All he needs to do at this point is to keep his head down, try to avoid the easy mistake of over pushing it towards the end of that race. But always easier said than done from a position. 4 drivers just behind Mathis Brageot. The battle for second is on. And we'll got away of Harry Williams in a way, certainly, because 1.3 seconds is the advantage that the British driver has been able to build for himself for the past 2 laps, taking advantage of the pressure mounting on the shoulders of Mathis Brageot. But for Harry Williams, securing that P1 would mean a lot as well. That would put him on the second row of the grid of the final, just behind Mathis Brageot, just alongside Mathis Brageot, shall I say, and in front of Ferguson that he just overtook into the classification, with Pietrantonio still in P6 and Iber finding himself within the top 8 of the grid. That will be for later. We'll keep an eye on the results at on the track here. Oh, a little bit of a mistake, unfortunately, for one of the fusions. This is the 39, Ibert, as I was mentioning his name, finding his way through to the top 8 of the grid for the final. 2 wheels on the grass, even the slightest of mistake can put you in jeopardy. That's just what happened, unfortunately, for Ibert. He was running in a strong P3, ready to keep the chase in the end, to attack Mathis Brageot, and now finds himself all the way down to P7. So not the end of the world, P9 now. Not the end of the world for Ibert, unfortunately, but the easy mistake, sometimes it goes your way. You cannot choose it, but that was very, very difficult for him to get on that line on the outside without putting 2 wheels on the grass.
No, exactly that. It's very easily done, as it's all getting a little bit feisty here further down in the pack, as you're seeing here Christian Kobe and Mason Hibbert fighting for position, and you can imagine that Hibbert's going to think about trying to real push back up in this order. Zarco in that fight as well. Simstad also, as they're battling just behind. You can see Simstad on that Falcon cart, now on the outside as he's just been pushed out the way, as Denver Boss finds his way back through. Mason Brooks is back on the attack here, the same as Henry King. They are just in the back of this train as well, and you'll see them try to push through the order. All the meanwhile here, Christian Kobe and Hibbert still lying astern. The 2 teammates now will have to try and work together through the rest of this race to close back in on the likes of Di Pietrantonio, who is a little ways up the road there. He's crossing the line now. So there's a big gap as the 2 behind going side by side. This is Zarco and Brooks. Mason Brooks on the recovery drive here, trying to get down the inside of Zarco, but he's not able to find a way through. The Spirit Karting driver, who is not running the full livery there. He's got the no sticker kit on his kart, but he is making it very difficult for Mason Brooks here to try and get past. This is absolutely superb racing, but it's going to go the way of Mason Brooks. And unfortunately for Stanislav Zarco, he's going to go backwards in this order now, because he's got Boss here, he's got Kim Min-jae for company, he's got Henry King for company as well, as they all go wheel to wheel in towards turn number 8. Big sideways moment there for the XL Motorsport driver of Henry King, trying to stop it on the brakes in towards turn number 8, but the rest of them still in a very strong position here as they push their way now to the end of this race. Time very quickly running out here, Guillaume, but once more the overtakes coming in thick and fast as Kim Min-jae trying to get past here, but every overtake opportunity provides an opportunity for someone else to send it down the inside. You can see there Henry King really pile on that pressure now. More action happening further up the order as well. It's all kicking off here as Johnson Stewart under pressure from Lorenzo Di Pietrantonio, who has now got past and has moved up into 5th place now. So the overtakes coming in thick and fast at the end of this race, as unfortunately for Henry King, his battle is not going to end too well. That's a 5-second time penalty to the head his way.
Yeah, unfortunately for Henry King, is one of the drivers in that battle in the middle of the pack. And I was keeping a good watch as well on Stanislas Zarco with that black livery. The 411 won't surrender without a fight, as we have some trouble for the 465. This is Mathis Nobs from LKM Racing towards the back end of the grid. Run the inside, goes to 57, beautifully made by Kim Min-jae on Zarco. As I was saying, Zarco won't surrender, is fighting aggressively but firmly, certainly, to hold on to his position. That's what we like to see. Despite the difficult conditions and the very low level of grip, those youngsters will give it everything towards the end of that superheat as we enter lap number 9. 416 of Henry King still under investigation as we speak. Henry King P11 at the moment. But here's your race leader, Harry Williams, who went from 5th to 1st. 1.8 seconds advantage of Mathis Brageot. If he stays where he is, Mathis Brageot, he will be on the 3rd row of, on the 3rd position of the grid. So certainly not the position he had been expecting, even though, as we've said, the inside line can prove interesting, as well as the outside coming to those conditions, very slippery. But that will depend about how much grip there will be in turn number 1 coming to the final, if the conditions improve later in the afternoon. But Mathis Brajot, second on the road, third overall at this point, in front of Skelvis, Pietro Antonio, Stewart, Kobe, Hybert, Brooks, and Kim Min-jiao, making himself up to P10. As we get near the checkered flag, the race comes to a sort of steadiness between the competitors, being aware that at this point that might be a bit unwise to try to go for the very late move at the cost of losing your position potentially. And look at how wet some of the curbs are as Harry Williams gets into the last lap. Mathis Brajot is trying to cool down a little bit of his wet tires by getting out of the racing line, preventing any opportunity for Rayleigh or Skelvis to get close as well. But if they keep on going at that pace, as I think we might have a switch of position between Rayleigh and Skelvis. At least those two were very, very close coming to turn number 5. I want to keep an eye on that as well, while Alex Rayleigh putting the fastest lap in the race en route to position number 3.
Yeah, he certainly is indeed. Down the back straight they go then in towards turn number 8. Harry Williams uncontested right now at the front of the field. This does help him out in that intermediate classification. He does head up to 4th in the points with 193. However, the eyes did focus on Mathis Brajot at the beginning of this one, but him finishing in 2nd place would not put him on that front row. He had the best effort to do that from the front, but it's not gone his way. For this man here, though, Harry Williams, for the United Kingdom and Fusion Motorsport, he could be your man on top at the end of the final later on today. He crosses the line, he sees the checkered flag. It's Williams from Brajot, Alex Riley for XL Motorsport finishing in P3 from Eberham Chelvis, Lorenzo Di Pierantonio finishing in P5 from Johnson Stewart, Christian Kobe and Mason Hibbert, Mason Brooks from Kim Min-jae, Henry King from Molokernil, Max Cruz from Denver Boss, Luis Paternotte and the likes of Stanislav Zarko, Matthias Nobbs and Ollie Simstad at the end of that one, finishing in P18. For the Fusion team, though, that's a good start to their season. They've got drivers up at that sharp end, and they've got drivers who certainly could be running well in that final. There's a look at that full result then on your screen as they head back in towards Parc Fermé. Some good, strong results there, but I can imagine there'll be some words in the Fusion tent thinking, guys, what was that start? What happened there? You know you're all fighting for it's a championship round, it's not a one-off. You all need to make sure you can work together in this stage to really help yourself out. There, though, Harry Williams will head to the scales. He takes the win in that final, but it does confirm George House then for pole position, and he'll be joined by Austin Newstead on the front row of the grid. And, of course, at the end of the Superheats phase, that does get them their first round of championship points that goes on the table. Here's a look at the highlights from this one. And, well, for the first half here, it was a Fusion 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 here, Guillaume. It was when we get towards turn number 8. That is where it gets just that little bit more interesting.
Yeah, in the chicane, 2 other drivers at the back end coming together already with one of the Fusions in this turn, number 7. And then, boom, the big coming together from some of the teammates out there from the British team, unfortunately. And that would cost the race and a good result to the likes of Mason Brooks, Kim Min-jae, Eric, as well as other drivers like Christian Corby and Mason Hybert later on that would need to climb through the ranks over the course of that race. A little bit of a mistake for Hybert there. Mason Hybert would finish up in P8 while he was fighting for a potentially top 3 finish. And towards the later stages of that race, well, good fighting as well from one of the drivers out there with that full black livery. Stanislav Ziarko would not surrender without a fight. That proved not to be too successful, unfortunately, since he would see the checkered flag only P16 after dropping places after places. But the battle was great to see, with in the middle one of the Falcon drivers as well making his way up. That was Smishat Sorli before himself as well, losing places down to 18 and last. But that was once again the great battle that we've seen with the 84 of one of the Fusions down there, trying to find his way through as well. That would put him up into the classification. Now, on the outside, side by side as well, touching wheels on the turn number 8. That was the 457 making his way past towards the end of that race. Mathis Brageot, in the meantime, being overtaken towards the later stages of that race. So it was the 73, my apologies, Johnson Stewart at the wheel of his Energy Corset. Then that move for the 57 by Kim Min-jiao, making his way up into the classification after dropping on the opening lap. As unaware of all the action behind him, Harry Williams was able to see checkered flag first. A good result for the Fusion Motorsport, one of the rare Fusion drivers not getting into trouble into this race. Now, ladies and gents, this is down now for the minis. We will get to see the youngster drivers of the competition back for the final this afternoon. More drivers onto the track, but we switch category. We go up in the age. Junior category, X30 Junior on track. Here's a look at the starting grid. JC Phillips, your pole sitter, P1 of the classification with Stig de Radar marker by his side. Archie Owen, Louis Bazire on row number 2. Row number 3, Henry Carter and finally Linus. Row number 4, we'll see Janik Babicek and Gabriel Benecki side by side. Row number 5, Ian Jerkan and David Stefan. Row number 6, Nicolas Frigg and Noah Grenier. And then row number 7, Aurelio Agustinelli and Jakob Bachler.
Row number 8 sees Ludwig van Christ and Freddie Wood. Max Lacroix and Ben Goetz go from row number 9. Gabriel Canal and Baron Altensoy goes from row number 10, and they ran out the top 20. Rafael Zanatsk and Zoltan Koini on row 11, with Rock Pinheiro rounding out the 23 kart field on the circuit. Want to point out some drivers in this one. Ludwig Kranquist, who starts this one a little further back in the order. Last year, P7 in the mini category in the IAME Euro Series. This year, P6 in the juniors in the Winter Cup, and P9 in the Open Games here last weekend. And there you can see from that little graphic on the screen, Jesse Phillips, your pole sitter, has decided he would like to switch sides of the grid with Stig de Rademaker, and he has done just that. So he will now start on the outside going in towards turn number 1. And again, we have seen that over the course of the racing, that the outside line does get a bit of a benefit in these wet conditions, as long as you can carry the speed through the corner and you don't get caught out from anyone on that inside line. So Jesse Phillips now starting from the outside of row number 1. Stig de Rademaker will now start ahead of Archie Owen. And if anything, that it's a bit detrimental to the likes of Archie Owen and Henry Carter, because usually the inside line gets the jump. They will not get the jump this time around because Phillips has to be in front over the line. That's how it works. If you're not alongside or you're ahead, it's a jump start, and you certainly don't want one of those. Here we go then into the last couple of corners. They're over the red line. There you can see Phillips definitely on the other side of the grid, and he will start this one for that outside row. Let's see if it pays off for him as they head into the tram lines. Revs raise. Are the lights going out? Yes, they are. We are racing down towards turn number 1, and once again, the outside line works well, but watch the switch back here. Louis Bratheret to the inside, takes the race lead, but can Phillips get the run in towards turn number 2? The answer to that is no. So that outside line did not work out for him at all, and now he slots down into second place, and now he's going to have to fight for third place because he's gone wide on the exit there, and he's just invited the rest of them through. Looks like Henry Carter went through. Archie Owen in the BMR has gone through as well. He's into third place. He's now wheel to wheel with him and Phillips. Phillips is back through into third place, but now they're going to head down in towards turn number 8. Big overtaking opportunity here, and hold your breath as down the inside there goes the likes of Henry Carter. He's going to try and get that move done, and there you can see behind as well one of the Jamie Green racing car. Is that Jacob Bachelor from back in the grid? He's up into about P5 or P6.
Yeah, great start indeed, as it's going from bad to worse for JC Phillips. And so unfortunately, it was about to drop another place into turn number 8, but as you said, that outside line start didn't function at all for the leader of the classification coming at the end of the qualifying heat. So he's going to have to do it all over again. Let's have a look at the classification as they come across. Louis Bazire, cracking start for the Frenchman from Victory Lane. Stig de Rademaker up into P2, still into P2, shall I say, from Archie Owen. JC Phillips down to P4, so certainly putting himself into the chaser mode. Ricardo down in P5, down from Gabriel Benecki. Noah Grenier climbing 5 places up to P7 from Bachler, Babicek and Stefan running up your top 10. Linus, unfortunately, dropping 6 places outside of that top 10 in P12. A couple of losers as well, as he keeps on battling on lap number 2. As you can see, the classification is evolving as run inside, diving through the number 80. Bachler on Gabriel Benecchi. Last year's IAME Series France winner is having to drop a position down to 8. Bachler up to P7. As in the meantime, this is J.C. Phillips, 22, getting ahead of the number 14, Archie Owen. Nothing that Owen could have done there. Beautifully made by the current leader of Fusion Motorsport. Jesse Phillips back into third place, and it was about time for him to launch that move because the two leaders are pulling away. Look at the gap that both Louis Bazire and Stig de Rademacher have been building. 7/10 between the 1 and the 2. And Jesse Phillips down, missing another second on Stig de Rademacher, his teammate from Fusion. Now that's going to be interesting about how much of those two will work together. At this point, Phillips still in the lead of the classification with the pole position at hand for the final. But Stig de Rademacher being second comes close, 4 points close. He would start by his side on the front row of the grid. That might still evolve, depending if Stig de Rademacher will be able to get close and even overtake Louis Bazire for the win.
So, well, we'll keep a close eye on all of these races. You have to remember as well, when we head in towards Superheat 2, also, Riley Cranham, who was second in the points, had 138. So he was only 3 points shy of Jesse Phillips. And with Phillips in third place, he could still actually lose out on starting on pole position here, could Phillips. So he needs to gain those more places as it goes on. Eyes on this one. Big load of curb there for Henry Carter. He goes wheel to wheel now with Archie Owen. Gets it through out of the final corner. Moves up into P4 now as he continues his charge up to the race lead. Here's a good run from behind. That's Noah Grenier looking to the inside. Grenier looking very, very strong on that card as he pushes his way forward. Noah Grenier certainly delivering some good results over the course of this weekend and having a good one right now. Rocking around on that Falcon chassis, but still looking very, very strong as he runs with the Euro karting team this season. Again, looking again on the inside of Archie Owen, this time not finding his way through at the chicane. One big dive down the inside of turn number 8. That might do it. Yes, it has. Through he goes. And he will hold on to the exit there as they enter into the Snell section through turns 9 and 10. Tiny straight in between this one. We have seen drivers run wide at this corner, but no such dramas for Noah Grenier this time around. But keep an eye on behind as well, because Jacob Bachler is closing in up those 7 places at the start of this race on that Gem Green Racing kart. You can see he's rocking one of those new style NASA panels in the 2025 one, the Paralin made one. That I've dubbed the platypus. Well, in these wet, raining conditions, a platypus certainly can deliver some good results, I'm sure.
I'm sure as well. Janek Babicek is busy demonstrating that as well, up to P7. Louis Bazire, in the meantime, your Frenchman from Victory Lane, pulling out the fastest lap in the race and increasing, or at least trying to increase his gap up to 1 second in front of Stig de Rademacher. And Louis Bazire, who pulled off 1 win into his qualifying heats, a P7 and a P5 as best results. He needs that win to maybe potentially secure a start on the second row of the grid coming to the final. A little bit of a nudge at the back of Janek Babicek and the number 80 of Bachler down in P8. Let's see if the Depths Racing driver at the wheel of that Tony Kart machine will be able to hold on to that 7th position. They're going a bit wide onto the curb. Watch out not to open that door just too much, because Bachler is only waiting for that. Archie Owen just in front of them, the driver from the BMR Racing team. Janek Babicek all over his rear bumper, trying to climb through the pack. And talking about the classification and making my own calculations on the side as well. There's 2 drivers. If it stays like that, 2 drivers with still a good shot at the pole position overall. And these are Riley Cranham, we mentioned his name, but also Dan Halleman, who could put himself in the lead, winning the Superheat number 2 that comes after this one, depending on how the classification will evolve coming to the later stages of that race. But for now, Louis Bazire is holding on to that lead. For second on Stig de Rademacher on 209 points. Jesse Phillips down in 3. If he wants to make sure to secure that pole position, he's going to need to push. He's going to need to try to make the contact with Stig de Rademacher and hopefully with Louis Bazire, because that won't help his cause for now, as we have a replay of that beautiful overtaking maneuver from the number 80, Jacob Bachler, on the 84 of Gabriel Benecchi that was earlier into turn number 8. And the battle between that same Bachelor from Jamie Green Racing and Janek Babicek from Teps Racing. Janek Babicek has been around the IAME X30 races for quite a while now, competing through the ranks. He's been a while in Mini, now fighting his way through the junior ranks as well with the local team, the family team from Czech Republic. Is the younger brother of the Babikova sisters, a familiar name as well in the world of karting. They've been competing up to last season with us. But now the checker flag is getting near, and Louis Bazire, look at him under the pressure of Stig de Rademacher all of a sudden.
Yeah, indeed. I've been keeping an eye on those sector times, and constantly throughout it, the Rademacher has been running just that little bit faster out on circuits, and there you can see Louis Bazire is under the pressure right now, albeit it was just a fraction faster through that first sector alone. But Jesse Phillips as well, not seemingly piling on the pressure as much as I think he would like here is Phillips. He's probably thinking, yeah, there's another race to go. We are leading. We're in a comfortable situation. However, it's not over just yet. Team radio.
Off the back of your gantry, going towards turn 1. Looks like someone on the track.
Yeah, there was a visor stick gave off.
Visor sticker coming off then, a driver. Well, that's no drama. That's absolutely fine. Don't need to worry about that. I said team radio. It's a race control radio. There we go. I may have watched the Formula 1 this morning. There was a smattering about the team radio in it, and it was just caught up in my head. We're on lap number 8 of 11 right now. You are currently watching Junior X30 Superheat 1 here, if you have just joined us at the Cremona circuit in northern Italy. We are seeing here Stig de Rademacher in second place, slowly hunting down the Frenchman of the Victory Lane karting team, Louis Bazire, who is in control here and has actually on that last lap opened up that gap to 1.2 seconds now. He has pulled the pin. Personal best sector 1 on that last lap was 0.3 faster than Stig de Rademacher on this lap. Crucially, they are joint in sector 2, so the pace is quick throughout. But Louis Bazire, from the start of this race, a brilliant run for him. And he got progressively better over the course of his day yesterday. 6th in qualifying, 5th in the first race, dropped to 7th in his second, then came back strong in the last race, claiming his first race win of the weekend and season, of course. He's looking for a second right now here, Guillaume, as he takes this kart to the end. He's certainly looking like a contender for that final later on today, is the Frenchman.
Yeah, definitely. Another fastest lap in the bag for the standard bearer of Victory Lane, one of the new additions for the past 2 seasons of the IAME X30 Euro Series on the international seat, competing as well in the European Championship. Victory Lane, the team founded by the Martins brother, Victor Martins, and Nico Martins as well. One former driver becoming manager, and the other one still competing in FIA Formula 2. And an activity at Victory Lane that has been going quite successfully on both national and international level. And Louis Bazire is a proof of that once again, that they put their finger on the right setup for the Car Republic machine. Bazire will be one to watch until the end, as he's going to pick up, if everything goes according to plan, his first win of the weekend so far for Louis Bazire. He picked up 1 win yesterday, my apologies, along with a 5th and a 7th. That would be a Superheat win. That is worth 90 points when it comes to the overall classification. That will put him in 3 overall as it stands, because we have 1 more race to go before the final in the junior category. But certainly that's the least he could do, picking up the win in front of the Fusion drivers. Jesse Phillips, in the meantime, still holding on to that first place overall, thanks to that P3 finish. If he stays where he is, might not have been what he needed in case of victory for either Riley Graham or Dan Halleman to secure that pole position. We're not there yet, but I'm pretty sure that Jesse Phillips would have preferred certainly to finish on top of the field and not down in P3. Warning flag for Gabriel Benecchi. In the meantime, the 84 down in 11th place.
Yeah, indeed, not what he wants to see in that one. Last lap board then will be going out to the drivers this time around, and there you can see heading to the line is the Victory Lane driver, who is pushing it all the way to the end. Torrid conditions that they've got out there. It is raining right now. It is not nice whatsoever. But the hard-working marshals are out there bracing those conditions to make sure these drivers all stay on the straight and narrow and stay, of course, nice and safe. But Louis Bazire here is delivering a very strong and, well, convincing result here. He steps up to third in the intermediate classification, only 1 point behind Stidde Rademaker, who's there in second in the points and on track as well. But for Louis Bazeret, he started third in this race. He started fourth in this race, I should say, and he was able to get to the lead on lap 1. So let's see what happens in that final later on today. But we'll have to see what happens in the next Superheat 4 Juniors. But for right now, it's France on top with victory lane and Louis Bazeret to the line. He's going to take a very convincing win here in the Superheat, and he knows it. To the line, he takes it ahead of Stidde Rademaker. Jesse Phillips crosses in P3 ahead of Henry Carter. Noah Grenier finishes in P5. Archie Owen and Denny Babacek wheel to wheel across the line for P6, but Owen just takes it ahead of Babacek. Bakula finishing in 8th place ahead of Tuna Jurkin, and David Menchuna rounding out the top 10. These drivers will sort themselves out. There is a look at the Superheats as it stands. Phillips in control of it for the time being. However, Riley Cranham is in a position to take that top spot away. There's a look at your full results. Top 10, we've gone over Gabriel Benecchi finishing in P11 from Gabriel Canal. Ludwig Granqvist from Finley Lines. Aurelio Gussinelli from Freddie Wood. Nicola Frigg and Bragan Alantoy rounding out the next few rows. Rock Pinheiro, Zoltan Korny, Ben Goertz, Rafael Zanatsk and Max Lacroix rounding out the 23 runners. For some of those drivers, that might be it for their weekend. Remember, only 36 can race in that final. Some drivers we will have to say goodbye to. One of those drivers who isn't going anywhere is this man here, Louis Bazeret. What a result that is for the Frenchman. Celebrates with his mechanic, knows he's done a good job, and let's see how he done it. The race start here, Phillips switching the sides of the starting grid, but Bazeret straight to the inside. No drama, no waiting around, knew exactly what he wanted to do, made it work as well. Phillips was unable to get the up and under to go back down the inside, and from there he just drove away because he was then swamped by the drivers behind. You can see he got back up into third place after battling with Archie Owen, who would later send it back down the inside as well. And you can see the Crop Promotions car pushing through as well. Henry Carter. It was all a bit of a shaky start there, and that's what just caused those gaps to open up at the front.
Yeah, definitely so. Not the best of start for GC Phillips being caught up in there, as battles were up plenty once again with Jacob Bechler making his way up a place in front of Gabriel Benecchi in turn number 8. Number 14 as well, fighting his way to clipping the curb for the 63 at some point into that race. Henry Carter on his way up to P4, getting ahead of the number 14 Archie Owen, falling down to P6. Noah Grenier with the Euro karting colors making his way past that number 14 Archie Owen on the way to P5. As in the meantime, a little bit of a nudge on the rear bumper of Zdeněk Babicek. That came from Jacob Bachler in the battle for P7, but the Depths Racing team driver would hold on to that 7th place, far behind Louis Bazeret, who gave us the drive of the day so far. It's the best result to date. That's the first time actually that Louis Bazeret wins on track. He inherited a qualifying heat win yesterday after Elvis Krasovskas picked up a 5-second penalty. So that's the first time that he gets to cross the line in first position, and hopefully he will certainly have the ambition to emulate on that performance coming to the final this afternoon. As for now, GC Phillips is still in the lead, but watch out for his teammate. This young man from Britain, from Fusion Motorsport, Riley Cranham, will be starting on pole position with Dan Halleman by his side. And according to the current state of the points, if he wins, he can pick up that overall pole position and the points for the championship that come with it. But before we get racing, let's hear from Riley Cranham yesterday at the end of the qualifying heats.
Strong race so far for you, strong pace in all conditions. You got a win in the bag. This is your second place, putting you as one of the contenders for tomorrow. How does one feel after that good day at the office?
Yeah, it's been a good day. The pace is there. We'll go on tomorrow and push harder.
push harder, but hopefully the conditions will be a little bit better than today. Talk us through how it felt out there, because we went from fully rain, changing, dry, then back again to rain.
Yeah, it's been a weird day. Obviously the track's been different in nearly every session. I think the last one then it was all about keeping it on like the driest part of the track where the rubber was most. But other than that, it's been all right.
And there's a lot of you from Fusion Motorsport obviously fighting at the forefront. How do you approach that kind of racing with your teammates, considering that you have your own results to think of, but the team as well comes into play?
No, obviously we work together as a team, and well, we've always worked together as a team, and we'll do that tomorrow again.
Fantastic, that's the spirit. Best of luck to you for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, good to catch up there with Riley Cranham, and he will be starting this one, like we were saying, on the front row of the grid, and joined by the pole sitter from time qualifying in the junior category, Dan Alleman, who will be joining him on that front row. Didier Krief and Elvis Kudakowskis go from row number 2. Max Yule and Matteo Melis go from row 3. Max Yule, who qualified 23rd, now finding himself inside that top 6 in these Superheats. Nils Malik and Max Endicott go from row 4. They'll have Bruno Greeling and Daniel Oliver, Charlie Johansson and Elias Ebersdobler go from row number 6.
Row number 7, we have Benjamin Westwood as well as Peter by his side. Row number 8, Romu Melu and Andrea Galimberti. Row number 9, Lorenzo Vilao and Suzuki Maeda. Row number 10, Mathis Mush as well as Aaron Meta. And at the back end, Fabio Pelleriti and Alejandro Campos. 22 drivers through 11 rows for this grid and 11 laps. To go through, the procedure is the same. 2 warm-up laps for those young drivers of the junior category, as the scenario is the following. For the pole sitter, Riley Cranham, the mission is to win, obviously, but he could allow himself to finish P2 and he would still secure pole position from GC Phillips. For the man by his side, Dan Halleman from Spirit Racing, the mission is even simpler, but more difficult certainly. He can only allow himself to win and not more, otherwise he would not be on the front row of the final. Well, it's according to the classification that we're going to have on track, waiting for it to be made official. But as for now, the 2 drivers at the forefront will certainly fight until the very end with one result in mind.
Well, drivers going a little slowly there in the background as one driver not with the pack. But the rest of the field getting themselves all formed up, ready to go. So remind you of the points as, oh dear, that's not gone too well at all. That is Dan Alleman, the person who's supposed to be starting on the front row of the grid, taking a spin at turn number 8. And that's very late on this second formation lap, which means he will not get back into position too easily. No, he's got back there already. Okay, that's good. Because we were very close to the end there, but the field was all nice and bunched up and slow. He didn't lose too much time, so he actually does manage to still start from that front row positioning, which is good to see. Rest of the grid getting themselves formed up at the back then. Let's see what's going to be happening in this one. Riley Cranham, who needs the good results with his hands waving in the background there. That looks to me, that could be Peter Sarikson or one. I think, actually, no, it's Bruno Greeling who's gesticulating wildly there, thinking, I'm in the wrong spot here. I'm supposed to be on the inside line, and I'm not. So let's find out if we're going this time around as we enter into the tram lines. Are we going racing? The answer to that is yes. And Cranham gets the good start, but they keep an eye on Alleman, who's already taken a spin so far in this race. Now tries to get him into position. They're 3-1 on the exit, and the Mick Barrett Racing cart's going through. It's Max Yule. Max Yule in the lead then of this superheat, but he's going to lose out on the exit. No, he doesn't. Holds on to it. It is the Mick Barrett Racing driver who leads the way. Alleman there in 3rd place. Cranham's holding on to P2 right now. In fact, that's yeah, it is Cranham in P2. The XL Motorsport kart trying to push up as well in this early stage. But yeah, it's the Mole Racing kart, I should say, of Krakowski's. That's pushing up nicely in 4th place. So let's keep an eye on the rest of these. But crucially at the front here, this is a brilliant start for Max Yule.
Yeah, definitely so for the Mike Barrett Racing driver, up in the lead after starting from P5 on that grid. Let's see if he will be able to stick to that position, but the opposition behind will be fierce, starting with Didier Krief as well as Riley Cranham. And Halleman a little bit further back down in P3. 2nd place for the 54 of Riley Cranham. Certainly furious to see that first position stolen from him, but is ready and fast to catch it up and takes positions first position back. Then Halleman ran the inside, 2 different racing lines onto the curb for the Swiss driver, getting a place up in front of Max Yule, beautifully made in front of the Mike Barrett racing driver, up into P2 for Dan Halleman. That was caught up by that spin into the formation lap as we've seen. And now certainly having found the grip and with the tires up to temperature, so to speak, into those very difficult conditions with the rain still pouring here on the Cremona circuit. Watch out for Dan Halleman protecting himself, going defensive into the braking point of turn number 8. Right onto the spot thanks to Oleg, our cameraman, onto the ground. The 75 just behind of Max Yule trying to resist from Elvis Krasowska, who lost a position, lost a victory yesterday into the qualifying heats, certainly willing to take his revenge. Then Didier Kreeft in the meantime dropping 2 places down to 5th for Malik Medis undercut, Ebbers Dobler and Oliver running up the top 10.
Well, still eyes on this one here as, like you were saying, Krakauskas is trying to push his way back through here, right on that rear bumper of Max Yule as they cross the start-finish line. The battle behind still raging on as well as he'll look to the inside here. Is that going to pay off for him? We have seen the inside line work, and it works once more. And does he hold it in towards turn 2? The answer to that is yes, he does, and he holds on to that 3rd place spot. Krakauskas now can go to work trying to close in on Dan Halleman and potentially Riley Cranham, but Cranham now setting the fastest lap of the race here is starting to open up a gap, but Halleman going purple in sector 1 on this next lap is preventing him from breaking away. So it's all still kicking off as one driver going off the track there. Was that Didier Kreeft going no further in the number 31? Was he squeezed off wide there at turn number 8? Because he does tumble down my screen here. So Didier Kreeft does have a moment at turn number 8, but he is still in the race, which is good to see. He is not in too much of a danger zone. Right, we were speaking about points earlier on. Riley Cranham in the lead of this race is looking to be starting on pole position then in that final later on today. If he can stay here, he's got 228 points from Jesse Phillips 213, so he's got a nice big buffer, does Cranham. He can just focus and get to the end of this one.
And he just opened up the last lap, fastest round in the race for Riley Cranham, responding to the pressure from Dan Halleman. The gap had been reduced at some point to 6/10 of a second. Now it's gone back up to 1 full second, thanks to that fastest lap for Riley Cranham. As we said before, Riley can indeed allow himself to finish as far as P2. More than that, and he would lose that potential pole position for the final. So P2 would do him good still. For Dan Halleman, the scenario is even trickier because he needs to get his hands on that win. Otherwise, he won't make the cut and will be only P5 on the starting grid for the final, while he could be on the front row of that grid. Now, 1 full second, still not the end of the world. We are only about to finish lap number 5. So plenty of time remaining for Dan Halleman on your picture at the wheel of that OTK machine from Spirit Racing. Clipping the curb a little bit, and he lost another half of a second, Dan Halleman. So not the same pace. Riley Cranham putting out another fastest lap in this Superheat, really determined to make the difference here, to show anyone still doubting that he will be the one to watch and the one to beat coming to the final of the junior class. Demonstration from the young British driver from Fusion Motorsport. Dan Halleman at this point not quite able to follow in the footsteps of Cranham, and this is where the difference can be made. Still 1 race to go after this one, the most important of them all. But if he pick up that win, not only Cranham will get another 25 points in the bag for the championship, but the pole position as well for the final.
You're watching the battle here. Theo Mellis and Max Yule very, very close to each other as they try to sort themselves out. Krakauskas just ahead here as Matteo Mellis trying to find his way past. There the gap. 1/10 of a second between the two of them. You can see both of them have gained places in this race. But as they push their way back onto the start-finish line, looks here like Matteo Mellis just looking that little bit faster, and he pulls out of the slipstream there, sails past Krakauskas like he was standing still on that start-finish line, and he moves up now into 3rd place. The Italian looking very, very strong right now. But he doesn't sit inside the top 8 at the moment in the intermediate classification, but he is still in a strong position, I am sure. Warning flag has gone out, though, to the driver of the number 39 machine, Peter Sadiksen, who unfortunately has been plagued with some issues over the course of this weekend, currently running around in 15th place. It's probably not the results he would be wanting in this stage of the weekend. Action happening further behind, though. Didier Kreeft is back on the charge. He's going wheel to wheel with the likes of Nilas Malik, and those two now swapping positions. This is Krakowskis and Max Yule earlier on, and the very close moment, that is Didier Kreeft, who we were talking about, completely misjudging the braking zone there, Guillaume.
Yeah, certainly. So as we've seen with the juniors before, and the mini, and certainly the mini class as well, this is the place you don't want to find yourself in. There's so much standing water outside and sometimes inside of each of the corners here that that's a double trap, and you would be lucky to escape it and to get out of it once stuck. Now, lap number 7 that is, as Riley Graham, 1.5 seconds still in front of Dan Halleman, quite unable to catch up with the pace of the British driver in front, but he's going to have maybe to make do with second place. Still a solid P5 start for the final. And that is down in P3, a little bit on his own. Krasovskas, Max Yule, you can see him now in the breaking point of the turn number 8. Didier Kreeft, Malik, Undercut, Oliver, and Ebbe's Dobler. Top 10 relatively steady at this point of the race, as we're getting near the conclusion of that superheat for the juniors. 3 races coming up after this one for the seniors, 2 superheat and 1 consolation race as part of the IAME Euro Series for the drivers, unfortunately, who didn't make the cut to the superheat. Still 1 race to dispute. And as you can see, the classification as for now, Riley Graham up in the lead with a comfortable lead. Gigi Phillips down in P2, still on the front row of the grid. Stick there the marker, losing a place down to P3 in front of Louis Bazire, Dan Halleman, and Elvis Krasovskas. If it stays like it is on track, that should be the starting order coming for the final. As Didier Kreeft, unfortunately for him, picking up a warning flag and a 5-second penalty, unfortunately, as he's running in P6 currently. That won't help his cause, that's for sure, coming to the last race of the weekend. And Benjamin Westwood, in the meantime, don't know if it was mentioned, but retired from this superheat. Quite unfortunate retirement for Benjamin Westwood. This weekend went from bad to worse for the Maltese driver, as one of the victory lanes going wild a bit on the passage of turn number 8. It was Nilas Malik, by the look of it, just behind Max Yule for P6.
Indeed, Max Endicott actually managing to find his way through as well on that BMR through turn number 8, so he steps up another position. While Didier Kreeft has managed to push his way through, like you're saying, he has picked up that warning flag, so he will drop back down the order later on in the race. Now, he will see that now as he crosses the line. If he's paying attention. Well, I think he did see that because he just checked over his shoulder just to see what is happening. There you can see the warning flag with that number 31 attached to it. So the Fusion Motorsport driver will be dropping backwards later on in the race in the post results. We're on lap number 9 here. End of the race coming up thick and fast, and Cranham still leads the way in this one. He's comfortable right now with a gap of 1.5 seconds between himself and Dan Halleman. Matteo Mellis there in 3rd place is doing a good job. He is closing in, but the gap is still 4.2 seconds between himself and Dan Halleman, so he's not close enough to really attack. There he is on your screen, whizzing into shot, the driver of the number 69. There is a look at the gap between Halleman and Graham. That is 1.3 seconds between 1st and 2nd place. The gap between 2nd and 3rd place at this moment is 4.5 seconds as they go across the start-finish line. There, though, you can see the rest of the field just pushing their way through. There on your screen, Didier Kreeft still in a strong position, but like I say, on the back foot. But there, your race leader, Riley Cranham. He is your race leader. And actually, on that last lap, was there a big chunk taken out of him from Dan Halleman? That gap is down to just over a second now.
Yeah, fastest lap in the race for the Swiss driver from Spirit Racing. Could this be a turnover? The checkered flag is getting here. Will you have time to put any more pressure on the shoulders of Riley Graham? Certainly lifting a little bit, trying not to take any additional risk, as he's been in control of that race ever since the start. But for Dan Halleman, this is now an effort to try to give that a little bit of extra push to potentially switch those positions. Easier said than done, considering that the time will be limited and the occasions as well for Dan Halleman to shaken up the Fusion driver in the lead. We're about to get into that last lap for the Superheat number 2 of the junior class. A quick look over the shoulder for Riley Graham, meaning he's not entirely comfortable leading to that last one. 1.2 kilometers to go through 15 turns into those very slippery conditions as the rain keeps on pouring. 0.8 of a second. If he keeps his head down, that might be enough for him to still checkered flag first and get his hands on that pole position. Dan Halleman waking up towards the later stages of that race, but I don't think he will have enough time.
No, well, we don't know just yet. He's taken another 10th out of him here. 0.7 of a second now is the gap. As far as I'm concerned, that's lunge distance, but this time around he's not going for anything in towards turn number 8. Stays there just behind Cranham, looking like he's got this one in the bag. Through the snail section they will go now. The gap continuously fluctuating, but it's back up to a second now. So Cranham just in that last sector pulled the pin just that little bit in the reserves and reopened that gap up. To the final corners then, Riley Cranham for Fusion Motorsport will head to the line, not only as the winner of the Superheat, but also the pole sitter for the final later on today in Junior X30 for round 1 of the IAME Euro Series in 2025. It's Riley Cranham ahead of Dan Alleman. Matteo Melis finishes in 3rd place ahead of Didier Kreeft, but Kreeft with that warning flag. Krakowski is finishing in P5 ahead of Nilas Malik, Max Endicott and Max Yule, who were battling to the very end on that last lap. Daniel Oliver and Elias Ebersdoppler finishing ahead of Bruno Grieling. Charlie Johansson from Andrea Galamberti, Suzuka Maeda and Fabio Pariti finishing inside the top 15, all gaining of positions. As Guillaume, the rain continues to fall here. Torrid conditions, but the drivers making their way back to Parc Ferme. There's your full results. The top 15 we've gone over. Romeo Mello from Peter Saracen, Lorenzo Valau rounding out the top 18 on screen. Aaron Meta, Alejandro Campos and Matis Mush rounding out the 21 finishers. One retirement in that race, Benjamin Westwood. You didn't see where he retired. It may have just been pulled it back into Parc Ferme, but still, for the rest of them, a strong result. And for Riley Cranham, crucially, he finds himself starting on pole position for that final later on today.
Yeah, the result he had been needed to get himself in the lead of JC Phillips. That's going to be an interesting 1, 2, 3 from Fusion Motorsport coming to the starting grid of the final. Let's see how he did that. And the spin of Dan Halleman trying to get some temperature into those MG tires, waving a little bit too much on the entry of turn number 8, was able to get back into position for the start on the outside line, going the long way around, switching this position, at least trying to switching racing line onto the curb on the outside. That allowed the BMR machine driver for Mike Barrett, Max Yule, to go from 5th to 1st in the space of 2 corners before Riley Cranham on the left side, the 54, was able to get back ahead, signaling to his rival it's way too soon into that race to start battling. Then Halleman had seen that sign, was trying to surprise them both. He did first for Max Yule, climbing up to P2, battling along as clipping the curb at the meantime, as Elvis Krasovskas was making his way up as well, getting ahead of Max Yule. As in the meantime, you've seen Didier Kreeft losing it on the outside of turn number 8, unfortunately dropping all the way down to P8 eventually, as the TB car driver in 69 fighting his way through, climbing 3 places for Matteo Melis up to that 3rd place in front of Krasovskas. Far behind, Riley Cranham would finish with almost a full second advantage on Dan Halleman. The youngster's driver at some point was dropped by more than 1.5 seconds before pulling the fastest lap in the race towards the last 2 laps, adding a little bit more pressure on the shoulders of Riley Graham, but it was suddenly too late for him to try to reverse that finish order. Riley Graham picking up the win into that Superheat, picking up the leadership overall and the 25 points for the championship and the pole position that comes with it for the final. So certainly the start of a good day at the office. All he needs to do is try to secure that overall win. Coming to the last race of the weekend, he's going to have behind him teammates from Fusion, JC Phillips and Stig de Radermaker.
Well, seniors are on your screen now. Superheat 1 not far from getting ready there. Your pole sitter in the 201, last year's IAME Euro Series champion of Italy, Danny Caronini, who is priming himself ready for this race. You can see there, Guillaume, just on his kart. Look at that, brand new set of wet tyres adorned for this race. So he's pulling out all the stops here to make sure that he can make sure he gets to the front. He can secure a pole position for the final later on today as well. So his work is certainly cut out for him, but he will have the likes of Clement Outron starting alongside in this race, who I have been told also has put on a fresh new set of wet tyres as well. So that should make it nice and interesting going into this one. Rest of the field is there as well. Some really strong results, but someone who has really impressed me over the course of this one has been Christian Biasati. Qualified 38th overall, outside the cutoff to even make it to the final. And he finds himself on the third row in Superheat 1. It's a brilliant effort. Engines fire up then. They make their way out onto the circuit. Let's quickly fire you through that full starting lineup. 36 drivers in this race for Superheat 1. We've eliminated some, but here's the ones who have made it through. Danny Caronini and Clement Outron on row number 1. Riccardo Ferrari, his teammate, starts just behind him with Matej van der Kerkhoff alongside. Christian Biasati and Jona Luja go from row number 3. They'll have Andy Rattel and Gus Lawrence on row 4. Keaton Geraghty and Aaron Garcia go from row 5. They'll have Clovis Nougaraid and Bertram Sash, who goes from the 6th row of the grid. Remember, Bertram Sash, really good results on this one after you qualified right at the back of the grid. Alex Pineda and Harold Madsen, they go from row 7. They'll have Samuel Ifrid and Marcus Glum. Roxanne Lantinga and Ilari Pispinen go from row number 9. Rocco Cruccio and Henberg round out row number 10.
Row number 11, Kevin Baker and Simeone Kitola. Row number 12, we have Adrien Mustienes and Knut Nielsen. Row number 13, Isaac Sea and Maxime Blanchemin. Niklas Hirsch and Morgan Moore, row number 14. Row number 15, Mark Granada and Morgan Knudsen. Row 16, Alberto Hurtado and Keanu Wellens. And at the back end, row 17, Jonathan Lindström and Marcel Matijewicz on row 17, followed by Timio Ruppen and Alexis Genolet on row number 18. A total of 18 rows, and we have Samuel Ifrid from Ubik Racing missing out, or did he just join?
He just
yes,
left.
he just did. Brilliant. So we have a full grid on our own here, a full grid on the track. 36 drivers in total. 72 only made it to the cut into the Superheat. This field being split in half. 36 for one side, 36 on the other. But only half of that made a count. 36 best drivers will make it to the final this afternoon. And talking about the tires, as you mentioned, a couple of new sets have been put on. This is the current classification with Danny Caronini in front of Harrison Mackie, Clement Outron down in third, Kevin Lantinga, Riccardo Ferrari, and Barbieri from Zenki Motorsport as well, that we got a chance to talk to yesterday. This is for your top 6 at the moment, with Matej van der Kerkhoff and Lewis Bird running up the current top 10. This classification will give us the starting order for the final, but this will change after this one, after the next as well. Caronini has all the chances in his head to be the pole sitter here on Omsol. All he needs to do is to secure P1 in this race.
Well, let's find out what will happen in this Superheat as the drivers making their way into the final couple of corners. The field pretty spread out still here. They'll need to really back it up at the front of the field. Danny Caronini and Clement Outron, two very experienced drivers at the front of these grids, know how to start these races. They are just hoping that the back of the grid can get themselves formed up in time to go racing. First time of asking. Here we go then. Into the tram lines. Are we going racing for the Senior X30 on finals day today? They are indeed going, and it's a great start for the inside road. Caronini and Riccardo Ferrari have the jump through turn number 1 and 2. It is Zenki Motorsport 1 and 2 as well as they head in towards turn number 3. You can see the Mole Racing kart there pushing its way through, but everyone trying to push their way through in these early stages. It's a good start for the entirety of the field. One driver in the background just struggling a little bit on the start-finish straight, but the rest all looking clear at this moment. Through the chicane they go, in towards the back straight and down towards turn number 8. Crucially though, Danny Caronini has got the lead, and by some way as well.
And two drivers coming together, unfortunately.
Oh,
there you
dear.
can see them in turn number 5, the 298.
Isaac Say
Yeah.
and Nicholas Hirsch,
That's right.
unfortunately, out of the race as they'll try and get restarted, which one of them successfully does so. Eyes on the rest of them, though, still, as they make their way into the snail section. A little bit of a train forming here, Guillaume. But all the meanwhile, it's still looking relatively calm at the front.
Yeah, as for now, but battles going up plenty a little bit for the drivers, trying to open that door here and then to the last segment. And I think that the driver still stuck is Isaac Sea, unfortunately, the first of the competitors to call it a day into this Superheat number 1 of the senior class. The battle is raging for the lead. Danny Caronini, Ferrari, and Clément Tron, the Frenchman, taking the second place out of Riccardo Ferrari. Under the pressure of Matthias van der Kerkhoff with that white crash helmet from Victory Lane. So Caronini extending his lead already, 1.2 seconds in front of Clément Tron from Dream Racing. Caronini's teammate from Zanchi, Riccardo Ferrari down in third from van der Kerkhoff. Rattel up to P5. What has happened to Marcus Glum? He's tumbling down the order as another driver as well. Morgan Knudsen is nowhere to be seen. Unfortunately, Kevin Baker is dropping down the order as well. We'll get back to that. Some trouble for a couple of drivers at the back end of the grid. Not so much so for Caronini into these early stages. 14 laps to go through the second longest race of the weekend for the senior driver. And holding on to that lead, you can see the result of the gap that is being extended for Danny Caronini in the classification 3:25. 3:01 for Clément Tron, Riccardo Ferrari, jumping past Matthias van der Kerkhoff for P3. And van der Kerkhoff getting ahead of Harrison Mackie, that we will get to see compete in the next race alongside Kevin Lantinga. So it's far from over, as van der Kerkhoff is trying to shake off the order a little bit. Andy Rattel putting the pressure on the Frenchman, on the Belgian driver, and Rattel is out. Oh, he was going wide a little bit. He just left the picture. I thought for a second that Rattel had made a mistake. Still very much reversed the Pantano driver. He suffered 2 DNF yesterday into the qualifying heat. Would you believe 2 in a row, really putting this weekend into a bit of discomfort, but certainly with the ambition to try to make things up for what happened yesterday.
Yeah, engine problems plaguing Andy Rattel yesterday in one of those heats, but all is fine today by the looks of it, as Clément Tron pushing his way nicely on that Dream Racing machine, trying to close in on Danny Caronini, but that gap, like you say, extending ever more. He'll need to be more careful of Matthias van der Kerkhoff just behind him, who has gone purple in sector number 2 on this last lap. The battle for P2 is on. There is Riccardo Ferrari battling in 4th place. This is P5 and P6 as Christian Biasati tries to battle away with Rattel. Rattel, though, taking that slightly wider line, able to get the switchback going through, carries a lot more speed on the exit of the corner as, well, Riccardo Ferrari is having to fend off again from Andy Rattel, sends it down the inside, and Rattel gains another place, back up into P4 now. So Rattel looking so much stronger today after that tough day yesterday, but you can imagine with the retirement in those wet conditions, he's looking a bit stronger on these tyres.
Yeah, with a slightly fresher set of tyres for Andy Rattel. He didn't put on a new one, unlike Danny Caronini and Clément Tron at the forefront of the grid, so that might be a reason, and certainly one of the reasons why those two are much faster than the rest. As for now, Gus Lawrence for the back of the 32, having a little bit of trouble here and there. This is, yeah, indeed in P9, fighting his way through with Ken Karate just in front, with the pressure of Aluha and Bertrand Sach in 11th place.
Here we go.
Sach, here's a change on the outside, beautifully made by Clément Tron on Matthias van der Kerkhoff. This is battle for 2nd place. Van der Kerkhoff was trying to make his way past. He's going to have to try that again. As in the meantime, Danny Caronini is not looking over the shoulder, pulling away fastest lap after fastest lap, taking advantage of that battle behind him, securing what will be, whatever happens, pole position by the look of it, considering that Harrison Mackie will be too far for the next race, even if he wins, to be on equal terms with the Italian. So the job is almost entirely done for Danny Caronini. Clément Tron, his mission is right now to hold on to that 2nd place to secure what could be a front row start coming to the final for the Dream Racing team. Driver there he is, with van der Kerkhoff just behind. That could lead indeed Andy Rattel to join the party for that battle for 2nd place. He's closing in from P4, the Frenchman, taking with him Riccardo Ferrari and Piazzati. Look at him go with a little bit of a gap actually built by Rattel on Riccardo Ferrari down in P5. So Rattel very much on the chase as Van der Kerkhoff is responding to Clément Autran. Two different lines. Kerkhoff choosing to clip the curve on the inside, switching the positions again, back into P2.
Yep, indeed. All the meanwhile, Danny Carinini breaks away and Anna Rattel closes in. So it's going to be a chop and change. Oh, someone's had an off at the final corner there, and that's not gone too well at all for the driver of the 304, which is Alexis Janolet of the LKM Racing Team. The Swiss driver now finds himself right at the back of the field, past the only one retirement that we have seen for the Jamie Green Racing Team. Isaac Say, unfortunately, who at this moment I think might not be in a good position to get into that final later on today. Isaac Say did start this one behind the cutoff on row number 13, and a retirement from there probably will spell not making it into that final. So we'll keep a very close eye on that one. Here we go then. Carinini leads. This is second, third, fourth and fifth on your screens right now. Riccardo Ferrari at the back of the field. You can see him there just pulling out of the slipstream there to try and maybe cool his tyres down, get a bit more standing water on the karts. Remember, he's not running brand new wet tyres in this one. He has got used ones. Oh, and that's how it all went wrong. A couple of drivers just running wide. There was another one there, but that was a bit too much curb. And you can imagine, I wouldn't want to be a spectator standing on the outside of that corner. That was a lot of mud that got flicked up there.
Yeah, definitely. So that was the incident for Alexis Janolet, the Swiss driver, finding himself at the back end of that field as a result of that. Run inside. Watch out on Clément Autran. This is the battle between Autran and Andy Rattel for P3. The French driver was having a sniff on the inside of its fellow countryman. Let's see if it was able to make it stick in the last segment of the track, as Simon Cotola in the meantime is picking up an investigation flag. He's currently further back into that classification. Autran still very much in P3 as he's busy defending against Andy Rattel. Is losing contact with Matthias van der Kerkhoff, I'm afraid. The Belgian driver pulling away in second place. You can see him now on the start-finish straight in front of position. Carinini 60 seconds in front of Matthias van der Kerkhoff himself. 1.3 second advantage on Clément Autran. Autran into turn number 3. Fighting with his wheel, trying to get a steady line, shutting all the doors to Andy Rattel. Rattel is in need of more points than that. He's stuck at 229. Oh, and it looks like someone has lost his front fairing, the 233 that is.
Yeah, that is Cotola, who's currently running around in the 17th place, and that is a safety concern, which is why he has just received a technical flag. He will have to bring it back into Parc Fermé. He will be able to see that his nose cone is missing. You would hope he will come straight in, and he does do so. That's good stuff from Simone Cotola. It's unfortunate for him as well. He was outside that cutoff. That is going to be him done for the weekend. He will not make it into that final. That is a big shame, but still a very, very strong performance over the course of this weekend. Eyes on the front runners here. Danny Carinini, well, we can't see him because he's 5.7 seconds further up the road. Van der Kerkhoff there in second place. He's another couple of seconds clear from this third place battle. Clément Autran and Andy Rattel, the two Frenchmen, Dream Racing and Pantano Racing Team, going wheel to wheel. I mean, this is going to be a fight of the ages. These two have been racing with each other for quite some years now, and both of them showcasing some good talent here at the Cremona circuit in northern Italy. There's the gap, 0.2 of a second between the both of them, but Rattel's been on the charge, and Autran has been on the back foot here, dropping one place so far in this race, and Rattel looking to see if he can try and gain another position in this race. Well, we'll keep a very close eye on it. The sector times at this moment are pretty equal, but look at this now, right on the rear bumper. I think we're going to see a change potentially into turn 1. But let's find out as they'll exit out of the snail section through 12. Here is 13, here is 14, and then this small little kink that they'll go through now, that is turn 15. And yes, he's going to pull out the slipstream here. They will go side by side. Andy Rattel looking for a top 3 finish in this superheat. He's going to get it through turn 1. He runs wide on 2. Is he going to lose out? No, he isn't. He gets it, and Rattel now up to third place.
Yeah, textbook move for Andy Rattel, while Matthias van der Kerkhoff is putting out the fastest lap in this superheat. is what happened to one of the RSD Racing Team driver. Oh, and a little bit of trouble for one of the Pirelli machine as well. This is the 296 that went into trouble. Marcus Glum, unfortunately, tumbled down the order after what happened there. Quite unfortunate for the Belgian driver driving for the Belgian team from RSD. As in the meantime, that was done, and is it almost dusted for Andy Rattel in front of Clément Autran, picking up third place. That won't help East Coast just that enough for Andy Rattel, because picking up 6 additional points thanks to that third place, he still finds himself P5 overall. He's still missing 10 points to get close to a second row start with Riccardo Ferrari up into P4. So Andy Rattel at this point would need to minimum win that Superheat to expect a better starting position. But certainly for the confidence and for the pace that his Pantano chassis has been demonstrating on this track, it does feel good to be able to pull out that sort of a move. Let's see that again to Marcus Glum, a little bit of a nudge from the 290 by the look of it from behind. That was Henk Veuk, the privateer, still driving in 24th position at this point. By the look of it, he was sent into a spin after a little bit of a contact on the rear bumper. Quite unfortunate for him. But as we said, Andy Rattel extending his gap on Clément Autran at the meantime.
Exactly that. We'll keep a close eye on all these battles as they progress, because there he is recovering back of this pack as they push themselves through. Right, we'll keep an eye on the bubble section of this lap, of course, because drivers who are in that cut-off area at the start of this race, Henk Veuk was one of them, Rocco Cuccio as well was one, Kevin Bakker, Simon Katola was one, Attila Masinis, Knut Nielsen, they were all on the bottom half of the grid, just on the cut-off as they're trying to push their way through. For them, drivers have improved. Rocco Cuccio is up 9 places. That's nicely done for him. He's trying his hardest to help get himself into that final later on today. Other drivers who had moments as well, as we'll cut to a replay here. Well, there you're seeing a conversation happening on the start-finish straight there between Gus Lawrence and Riccardo Ferrari. Gus Lawrence saying, right, I'm going to go, and are you going to follow me? And Riccardo Ferrari says something along the lines probably very similar. He says, see, I will follow. But that is the case of happening now. And it is Gus Lawrence in P5, Riccardo Ferrari down to P6 here. Here's a driver we've not spoken much about in this one, Bertram Sash. He had a great day yesterday, did Bertram Sash, on that new Henza kart that he'll be running in 2025. And it's not going too bad for him right now, because he's up 2 places, he's inside the top 10 now, running very, very well as we cut back to the race leader here, Danny Carinini, who took a big look over the shoulder there to say, where is everyone? How did that happen? Well, it happened like that. There we go. You've just been driving away from the rest of the field. You're still clear by 2.7 seconds. You are being closed in, though, Danny. Van der Kerkhoff is there. The gap now down to 2.7 seconds. They have been fluctuating lap times here and there, but he has been slowly reeling him in. I don't think at a rate that's going to be good enough, because we are on lap 13 of 14, and Danny Carinini has just got 1 more lap to go here.
Yeah, I'm sure that the former IAME Euro Series champion of 2024 is playing a little bit with the nerves of Matthias van der Kerkhoff, you know, showing him maybe the slight opportunity that comes along. But he has the experience. He knows that at this point, with such a gap at this point of the race, it's pretty much pointless to keep on pushing the way he's been doing so far. It's about preserving your mechanics, it's about preserving yourself and your tires as well, to make sure the material is up and running and ready for the last fight of the weekend, coming to the final this afternoon. So whether he wins with a 1.4, a 2.4 or a 6-second advantage certainly is of no importance for Danny Carinini. It will do good for the confidence as we enter the last lap of that Superheat, but he certainly could allow himself to lift it up a little bit for the last 2 laps, and allowing Van der Kerkhoff to maybe start believing about his chance of winning, which is more than likely at this point. Now look on the inside, just into the chicane. That is in turn number 7. There's a lot of grass on the inside line, just before the breaking point of turn number 8 on the other side of the circuit. So some of the drivers might want to be careful coming to a checkered flag. A little bit of cleaning will be required, but it certainly didn't bother this driver on your picture. Last year's champion, the dominant force on home soil for Zenki Motorsport, Danny Carinini, who entered this day of racing in the lead with the 25 points for a championship after the qualifying heats. He will pick up another 25 as leader overall after the superheat, and the pole position that comes with it for the final in the first of the two superheat. Danny Caronini, ladies and gentlemen, the one to watch, the one to beat in the senior class.
Certainly so. Well, checker flag is out. Caronini takes it from Van der Kerkhoff. Rattel finishing in third place with that gain of 4 positions, the same as Gus Lawrence of the PF International Karting team. Gus Lawrence, obviously the winner of this event last weekend at the Open Games, certainly delivering very good results. Clementron from Riccardo Ferrari, Christian Biasati from Ada Garcia, Kian Garrity, Bertram Sash. They round out the top 10 on track, as there's the rest of the results on your screen. Rocco Cruccio hopefully has done enough to make sure he gets through. Roxanne Lantiga, I think, has done enough to get through. She started above the bubble, and she stays above that bubble, and she finishes in P12 from Iriri Pispanen, who finishes just behind as well. Jona Luja finishing in 14th from Knut Nilsson, Harold Matteson from Morgan Moore, Samuel Ifrid from Marcel Matijevic, Andrea Musienes and Mark Granada, Kevin Bakker from Hentwerk, Maxim Blanchemont from Nicholas Hirsch, Alex Pinera, Morgan Knudsen, Marcus Gloom, Clovis Nugarade from Alexis Genele, Alberto Hurtado, Keanu Wellins, Timio Rupen, and Jonathan Landstrom, the 34 finishers in that race. The 2 retirements, Simona Catola and Isaac Say, not making it to the end, and their hopes of getting into that final have fallen much, much lower. Let's have a look at the highlights from that one. For the 2 Zanchi Motorsport drivers, Danny Caronini and Riccardo Ferrari, the start was as good as it could possibly be. More so, though, for Caronini, who was able to break away and go from a lights to flag finish. Drama struck earlier back, and that's definitely the reason why Isaac Say was going to go no further. That track rod very firmly broken on that wagon. Rest of the battles going through. You saw the likes of Clement Utron battling his way through the field, as well as Annie Rattel. From that camera view, looked like he'd gone straight off the circuit. No, 'tis but a scratch, he said, as he then got the cut back straight back through with that switchback, and he moved up those positions nicely. He finishing that race up into third place as he went wheel to wheel with the likes of Riccardo Ferrari. Ferrari surprising me in that one, not showcasing the pure pace that he had yesterday in the dry and wet conditions. But today, he will make it into that final. We'll see what he has to do there. Van der Kerkhoff, though, has impressed me. He's looking good at the moment. He's currently third in the points with still one more superheat to go. For other drivers, it definitely wasn't a good run there, as drivers going backwards. Alberto Hurtado, maybe one of them, but the main culprit there getting back into the race. Rest of the race going on. Good little scraps here. And I'm really impressed with Andy Rattel. A really strong performance for the Pantano team.
And in the meantime as well, Simeon Catola giving us a little bit of a 1950s, 60s vibe with that front fairing missing as he made his way back to the pits as one of the RSD driver. Unfortunately, it was Marcus Glum being sent into a spin, unfortunately, as a result of that contact earlier with another driver, as we had seen the spin as well from Alexis Genele, the Swiss driver, towards the last corner of the race. So a couple of drama here and there into this first of the two superheat for the senior class. Danny Caronini very much unaware of all those events on track, leading his way up to a 6-second advantage at some point, 1.5 on the line in front of Mateusz Van der Kerkhoff, and Andy Rattel picking up that third place. That would allow him to start on the third row of the grid coming to the final. Superheat number 2 coming up, ladies and gentlemen, as the starting grid is already in front of your eyes with all drivers lined up. The one that will be starting from pole position, Harrison Mackie, another force to be reckoned with at the wheel of that Fusion Motorsport machine. By his side, Kevin Lantinga. Watch out as well from Kevin. 26 in qualifying only, and he managed his way through at the end of the qualifying heats yesterday.
There is a missing cart in that grid. Otto Pukinen of Finland does not find himself on that grid, and he is not sure where he's gone. So that is a big shame on that one. So I think the mechanics, I think they're being told to clear the grid slightly here. It's usually this is where we'd send them, but I think, yes, we are going to send them straight away. So usually that grid is cleared, but yes, they're sending the drivers anyway. So Otto Pukkanen missing from the field. We'll try and work out why that is, but the rest of the field is there. Some on some new tyres, some also not on new tyres as well. So let's find out who is going to be starting where. It will be Harrison Mackie for the United Kingdom starting on the front row of the grid. He'll be joined by Kevin Lantinga of the Netherlands starting alongside Andrea Barberi and Lewis Bird go from row 2. They'll have the pole sitter from qualifying, Max Radek and Zach Green on row number 3, and they'll round out the top 6. Row number 4 will have Mattis Maschaltz all on his own. No Otto Pukkanen on the field there. Sam Woolley and Ruben Moya will round out the top 10. They will go from row 5. Aaron Cavillo and Florent Panaz, who's had some really good racing over the course of this weekend. They start from row number 6. Philip Svensson and Mark Lepiccolo go from row 7, from Yannis Boulier and Dinia De Vos on row number 8. Sam van der Heijden and Luca Montebello round out row number 9.
On row number 10, we have Nikita Nikishov as well as Meryl Peldes. Row number 11, Oscar Repetto and Thomas Van Vliet. Row number 12, Oscar Guccio and Rafael Pourlard. Row number 13, Diego Gama and Julian Bruckmacher. Row number 14, Maxime Prudhomme and Luca Anton. Then we have another driver missing onto that race, Elias Lehmann alongside Luna Claret. She's going to be on her own on row number 15. Row number 16, Nicolas Simic and Eloy Gonzalez. Row 17, Marlon Bayer and Evgeny Yaskov. And at the back end of the grid, we have Patrick Okorovich as well as Luis Mas. Luis Mas, who doesn't seem to be with us. Yes, he is. So 2 drivers missing. So we're supposed to have 36 of them. We only have 34. As you can see, Otto Pukkanen didn't make it to the grid, as well as for Elias Lehmann for a reason still unknown to us. 2 drivers missing, as the conditions seem to be slightly improving. It's no longer raining here in Cremona, but as you can see, the track is still very much wet.
That graphic there was just showcasing Otto Pukkanen not making it to the grid. I can tell you why. Do you want to know why?
Of course.
Missed his alarm. Slept in. How'd you manage that, Otto? You missed your superheat lap. Oh dear. But no, it's all right. It happens. I've missed my alarm several times. I've been told over the course of the years. I've missed a race or 2 as well. So there we go. But that's absolutely fine. Understandable. For Otto Pukkanen, does that mean he misses the fight? I think he'll be okay. I think he'll make the fight. I think he's got enough points up there to make it. I think he'll be starting at the back. But he might just make it into that final. So we'll have to wait and see for that one. But that's an oops, if I've ever seen one. However, we are ready to go racing here as the field makes its way around the final corner. This is the last superheat of the day. Consolation coming up next. But are we going? Who's finding on pole position in this race? We are racing now down in towards turn number 1. 4 wide in towards turn 1. But crucially, right around the outside, Kevin Lantinga from the front row of the grid. He's going to take the race lead, and this is exactly what he wanted yesterday. He didn't get those sort of starts yesterday. He was starting well down in the order after not having the greatest qualifying, but now at the front, he's all fine and clear, and I can imagine he is going to break away by some extreme rate in this race. Zach Green now up into 2nd place. He's managed to get his way through as they go sideways under braking. One of the Pantano karts there pushing his way through. And that is a very close race. Who's that? Is that Ruben Moya?
That is
Ruben
indeed.
Moya in 2nd place already. Astonishing start for him as at turn 8 the pile-up has happened.
Unfortunately, we had some trouble for Eloy Gonzalez as well at the back end of the grid, and adding to that, a couple of more drivers in trouble at the braking point. Number 8, maybe Thomas Van Vliet, Oscar Guccio were some drivers involved, as well as Luna Claret, by the look of it. That's going to need confirmation, but a couple of them, Sam Woolley as well, seems to be in a bit of a trouble. We're going to have update and confirmation once they get along our commentary position. This is 2 laps complete, 1 lap completed, lap number 2 that is. Kevin Lantinga is leading 8 tenths of a second. Let's take a look back on what happened there at the braking point.
Sam Woolley spun, and then everyone else had nowhere to go, and the pile-up continued there. So, yeah, Sam Woolley was the first recipient of that. Niels Malik, I think, or Nicholas Simic was involved in that with Thomas Van Vleet, Oscar Goodshow, Julian Burtbacher, and as well Luna Claret, who were all caught out in that incident. And for some of them, those races are over. That is a big shame, and for them, that is going to mean that for some of them, they might not actually make it into the final later on today. If they started any lower than the 10th row of the grid, they'll be in a real spot of bother, and Oscar Goodshow's one of them, who's at a moment. Burtbacher was also another one started, on the 13th row of the grid. Thomas Van Vleet, where did he start? He also started on the 11th row of the grid, so their chances of getting into that final after that incident, Guillaume, are pretty much done and dusted. Eyes on this one, though. Battle for second place. Moya wheel to wheel with Green, and Green goes backwards, and unfortunately as well another driver just suffering a little bit in this one, Evgeny Yaskov in the 330, going backwards as well.
Yeah, in the meantime, Ruben Moya is back in contention, battling his way through, trying to hold on to that second place. A quick look over the shoulder to see where Zach Green might align himself on the way to turn number 8, and the Spanish driver is still picking up that second place. There he is. Incredible recovery of 8 places in just the course of one lap for Ruben Moya. Here's a little bit of context as well. Ruben Moya, twice P3 finisher in the IAME Euro Series, one of the big names as part of the IAME X30 world. Former Winter Cup winner as well in Spain, but not having the best of weekend. His qualifying performance went down to the bin. 70 overall was he qualified on for Friday. Something went definitely wrong for Ruben Moya, who's been used to fight at the forefront. This is exactly what he is doing, to the cost of a lot of overtakings into the qualifying heats. He managed a P6 and a victory as best result into those changing conditions, allowing him to start on the 5th row on the grid. And there he is, fighting for a top 3 finish. Here's what happened there at the end of the track.
Wow, there you go. That's the Italian coming out there, and you can see the hand gesture going up as just missing the barrier there on the exit, millimeters away, but still in the race. Drastic different racing styles we are seeing from Moya and Green. Moya, you can see, very aggressive on the turn-in, trying to push that car as much as possible. Green with the much softer approach into the corners, but as you can see, they're not breaking away from each other, so the two different styles are working in unison. However, the style of Harrison Mackie seems to be working a little better as well, because he is closing in on Moya and Green. You can see him there just lurking in the background on that Fusion kart, as once again Green to the inside. He's constantly putting in the works on Moya here, but Moya gets the switchback on the exit. Again, the inside, the outside. When it comes to the other side, it's just a chop and change. Just a fantastic little battle we're seeing here.
Yeah, fantastic little battle, but certainly not going the way of Zach Green at the moment, because let's not forget that those drivers have had different fortunes through the course of that weekend. As we said, Ruben Moya has been working his way through the field, qualifying heat after qualifying heat after that difficult qualifying. Zach Green, in the meantime, picked up a 4th and 2 top 3 finishes in his qualifying heat. He's currently in P7 in the classification, and he only needs 3 points to get himself a 3rd row start for the final. Ruben Moya, in the meantime, is just happy to be here, so to speak, because after the difficulties of his weekend, he's there not to make up the numbers, obviously, but the higher he can finish, the best scenario it will be for him anyway. For Zach Green, the longer he gets stuck behind the Spaniard, well, the scenario going from bad to even worse for him, because he needs 3 extra points to be able to climb through the classification. He's not quite able to get past Ruben Moya, and in the meantime, he's losing contact and momentum to Kevin Lantinga. So Zach Green needs to do something about it, because in terms of position for the final grid, Ruben Moya is really giving him a hard time, going back and forth, left and right. He's really having fun at the moment, Ruben Moya, by the look of it, because after the difficulties and trouble he went through, he's just happy to be there, fighting for that P2 finish.
I think fun is not the word I would use for this. I think he's getting a little irritated at some points, because every time he goes through a corner, all of a sudden a Jamie Green racing car sends it down the inside. Zach Green is probably having the time of his life as the two go wheel to wheel, and Moya off the circuit at turn number 10. Was there contact, or was that just a little bit wide at that turn? I am not too sure, but from Ruben Moya, I can imagine if he was irritated early on, it's now frustration that is going to be going through his mind.
Yeah, there's definitely no more fun at all for the Pantano driver. Didn't see that coming. We might need to have a look at that again to check out if there was any contact there, but certainly dropping position after position for Ruben Moya. Where does he stand now? The Spaniard still in
Still only P4, yeah.
Still in P4, but that allowed in Harrison Mackie to jump for P3. Let's have another look at what happened with Zach Green just in between.
Oh, you can't tell from that angle if there was or not. And yeah, I didn't see like the classic, you know, the head bob of a hit there. This angle might be able to tell us something. Into, clips the curb.
Don't think there
no,
was.
I don't think there was any contact there at all. I think the back end just stepped out. It was trying to carry the speed through the corner, and that angle doesn't really tell us much. But it was, yeah, I think from that point, I think that might have just been a mistake. Someone who will definitely know is race control. They'll have 10 different angles of that one, so they will see what is the case. But for Kevin Lantinga, that just helps him out a little bit. The gap now 2.5 seconds. Green now with the clear air is actually going fastest. He's just put in a purple lap time. 105.693 is closing in on the field ahead. This one there, though, is Mark Piccolo and Lewis Bird. Lewis Bird just getting through and pushes himself up nicely in the order. Mathis Merschalt's just behind as well, trying to close in. Not close enough this time as we're on lap number 9. Replay here. And this is Moya. Ah, yes. Well, okay, so Moya's saying, hey, what are you watching? Look, he hit me off the track. From our replays, it didn't look like there was any contact. Moya saying there was. So there we go. Very interesting scenario. So race control, I can imagine, are going to be looking at that one.
Yeah, definitely an interesting situation between the two. I do wonder if Ruben Moya is saying this out of frustration for having been slightly pushed without a contact, but despite the different angles, we cannot tell at this point from our perspective, so that will need confirmation. But Moya is back at the rear bumper of Harrison Mackie. That's going to be another interesting battle. Look at him going the long way around, switching those positions on Harrison Mackie. Ruben Moya side by side, pushing the British driver slightly onto the curb, and Moya gets his way in, picking up second place, third place for now. Mackie is trying to resist, but Ruben Moya up into P3. I was going to say just before that Harrison Mackie, having gained a place due to the incident of Ruben Moya, is not good business as well for Zach Green, because he lost a place into the classification. Let's watch that again.
Around the outside, nice little switch back here. How close would you like to get? Ooh, tantalizingly close would you like to get that? Oh, in fact, very close. A little bit of contact between the two of them. Side pod to side pod, and he gets that move done. There he goes. Again, you can imagine, red mist descending. The notification you did see on your screen, we have got it on our screen as well. Zach Green, the driver of the 269, is under investigation currently for that incident between himself and Ruben Moya at turn 10 a few laps ago, which finds Moya back here in third place. And here is Moya again with his very dramatic styles there, very wide, and that's actually another little switch over that you've got. Again, that style, it promotes the driver to go down the inside. It feels like there's, oh yeah, he's made the mistake, and then all before you realise it, he's got the power out the corner way before you, because you're still understeering into the corner, or they've got the wheel straight, they've hit the throttle, and bang, out the corner they go.
Post 7, report 269.
So report going in, confirmation of 269 Zach Green, who is under investigation. However, we have heard nothing if there is anything going that way. Moya, obviously, he was gesticulating there over the start-finish line saying, are you going to look at that? They are looking at that, but from our angles, we didn't see any contact. But again, they've got so much more angles, they can probably tell if there was or not. Eyes on this, though. Harrison Mackie has got Mark Piccolo all over the front of him here as they head over the start-finish line. The gap 0.3 of a second as they go through, but Mark Piccolo is on the charge here, trying to close in on Ruben Moya. And let's see if that will be the case in this one. Mathis Merschalt still there in P6 behind this fight from Lewis Bird. Sam van der Heyden's there in P8. Now, I'm pretty sure that van der Heyden has picked up a warning flag in this race. I can confirm that, yes, 247 has got a warning flag, so he's got to really work hard in this one if he wants to try and beat the likes of Svensson, De Vos and Babetta there in the top 11. We're on lap number 11 right now, Guillaume, and all the meanwhile, Kevin Lantinga breaking away nicely. However, he is being closed in here by the Jamie Goon Racing driver of Zach Green, who is under investigation, because the gap now is only 1.7 seconds.
Yeah, still a long way to go for him to be caught up, I think, by Zach Green as the checkered flag is getting near. Oh, and another driver in trouble. That's Nicky Schoff. Unfortunately, the 220 doubling down the order as he just made his way out of the track. It was in turn number 8 that happened. And in all of his bad luck, he's just standing next to the entry of the pit lane, so he won't have a long way to walk back to the backfield. I mean, fortunately for him, that's race done and over for Nikita Nikishov from Auto Club Vadis, unfortunately.
And he was just on the bad side of the cutoff there. He started this one on the 10th row of the grid in P19, a retirement. That might be his first round of the championship done and dusted there.
Yeah, double punition, unfortunately, for Nikishov. And in the meantime, the battle is raging between those two into that turn number 8. That has cost the race of Chamonix before. The 221, this is Arsan Maki, Marco Lopiccolo. We picked up on that one. The battle for P4. Lopiccolo just made his way past Arsan Maki. Oh, this is Mathis Merskot. My apologies, Piccolo just went past before. And Maki is resisting. Maki is fighting his way through once again on Mathis Merskot. Those two will give us a bit of a show until the checkered flag. Merskot is so once again switching the racing line into that turn number 13 on the way to the fast start finish straight. Mathis Merskot upper place, Maki down into 6th. That one got away of the British driver, still holding on to that second row start, coming to the final just behind Clement and Kevin Lantinga, your current leader. So he will need a result, but even though if he stays where he is, he should be secured starting from 4th onto that grid. Mathis Merskot, in the meantime, not quite in the same position when it comes to top 8 overall, but still he's been climbing through the ranks a little bit, not as much as Marco Piccolo, obviously. 10 places gained up to P4, but a great battle on our hands for the conclusion of that Superheat.
Certainly so. Nearing the end of this race, and the eyes still focus on that battle going through. Lantinga still clear by 1.7 seconds from Zach Green, no drama there. Moya back there in 3rd place, still trying to hunt down, but that gap is still very extensive. There is Moya going through. There is Mark Lopiccolo just chasing him behind, so it's a very open front field here. There is your race leader on this last lap of the race. Kevin Lantinga really has impressed me, has Lantinga. 26th in time qualifying over the course of this weekend. 13th place in that first qualifying heat. He took a win in his second. 2 second places and a P4. Today in his Superheat, he's looking at a race win. He is looking to start his season in 2025 on the front row in the IAME Euro Series in the senior category. Kevin Lantinga for the Crop Promotions team, speaking to him at the start of this weekend, it was like, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm not too thrilled to see what happens, but we'll see what happens, and we're seeing what happens. And Lantinga, you are putting yourself at the front here, lad. Out of the final corner he goes. Kevin Lantinga's going to take the win. Thumbs up, he's happy, he knows it. He starts alongside Danny Caronini for the final later on today. Zach Green finishes in 2nd place, but is under investigation with Ruben Moya, who finishes in 3rd place. Mark Lopiccolo ahead of Mathis Merskot. Maki in 7th from Svensson. De Vos in 8th. Bird in 9th. Sam van der Heyden finishes in P10. I think after that 5-second time penalty has been applied, he drops to P10 on track. But what a race that was to the end, and some question marks, Guillaume, looming over some of those drivers.
Yeah, one of them is Andrea Barbieri. Unfortunately, you see him only P11, dropping 8 places. He was P3 onto that grid. I do wonder what happened. Certainly not the race he had been expecting Andrea Barbieri picking up a win yesterday in the qualifying heat. Here's the result in pole P12. Oscar Repetto from Max Radek, or overall pole sitter, not finding the right setup, not finding the clue that he needs to perform at his best in those conditions. Florent Panès down in P14 from Ogrodovic, Luca Auton, Marlon Bayer. 16 places gained for Marlon Bayer up to P17. Maxime Prudent down in P18. After another good recovery from Luca Montebello, P19. Then we have Aaron Kivido, Meryl Peldes, Yanis Billet, Nicolas Simic, as well as Diego Gama, Eloy Gonzalez, Samueli, Luis Mas, Eugeni Yaskov, and Rafael Bourla. 29 drivers at the end of that race, won by Kevin Lantinga. His first superheat win of the season for Kevin Lantinga, one of the recoverers of the weekend so far. And a long name of drivers who didn't make the cut. We had Elias Lehmann and Otto Pikkonen not starting this superheat number 2, and we lost in the process Julian Brugbacher, Oscar Guccio, Thomas van Vliet-Lacleret, and Nikita Nikishov. Let's take a look back on how things unfolded. That big coming together into the opening lap. There was a cracking start from Kevin Lantinga, sliding his way onto the curb, taking the lead on what would be a win in the end as soon as turn number 3. And further back, things would get a little bit spicy between some of the drivers on the way to turn number 8. We had one driver in trouble already as soon as that turn number 3 and 4. And then a little bit of misunderstanding coming to the hairpin, with one driver going sideways as well. It was Sam Worley in the wrong way around, leading to that big coming together between 4 up to 5 drivers in trouble out there. And 4 of them would get stuck onto the track and not able to keep going into that race. Then the heat was really pulling up here between Ruben Moya and Zach Green, coming together onto the last corner of the track. And one driver being sent around, and then that battle between Zach Green and Ruben Moya, a couple of contact as well, the Spinet going left and right, getting past and backing up against the driver from the UK, but Zach Green in the end would have the last word after what had been a very tight battle. As you can see them flipping the curb on the inside for Ruben Moya into turn number 3, and then that moment going the long way around in what he has been demonstrating as driving skills. A slight contact, difficult to say from that angle. We're not sure yet about what happened. Ruben Moya will be gesturing out of anger as a result of that incident. Was it down to a driver mistake? Has there been a little touch, a little contact on the side pod that sent him into the grass? Difficult to say at this point.
Very difficult to say at that point. We'll have to wait and see the results afterwards, but he was very adamant that something did happen there as he recovered back through the field for Ruben Moya. This time battling with Harrison Mackie. That moment there did result in some contact. Mackie nearly dropping a wheel off the track, but Moya just managing to squeeze through. Some very close racing between these two all the way throughout. That moment there again, big oversteer moment for Moya, but able to get the power out of the corner, and you can just see there the thumbs up going up. Then it was the time when Matis Pichal's trying to push his way through as well. He then went wheel to wheel with Mackie for a fair few laps. They had a fabulous little scrap through the final sector of the lap, through turns 10, 11, 12, as Mackie sent it down the inside of turn 11. Watch them get the switchback. Watch the switchback here through turn 12. Back through goes Michal, squeezes him again, but this time it was for good. Moves up that position, pushes himself forward. But for Kevin Lantinga, also known as Dave, that's a job well done. He starts on the front row in that final later on today. Make sure you don't miss those. They'll be kickstarting at 1 o'clock local time. But don't go anywhere. We've got one more race for the drivers who unfortunately did not qualify inside the top 72 to get into those superheats. This is the consolation race. This is drivers who finished 73rd down to 108th. This is their last chance to go for a race today. There is no progression from here, though, however. No one will make it into the final or anything. It is just their last race of the weekend. You're here, you can't see, you've got the tyres, you might as well go and have some fun. That is the consolation race. And let's take you through that starting lineup for this race as well. Mariano Alatorre will be starting this one on pole position, be joined by Luca Mann alongside Victor Ajater and Mohamed Menemni go from row number 2. They'll have Gimes Merkelbach and Peter Gorecki on row number 3. Wadapong Ian Vichan goes from row 4. He'll be joined alongside Sophia de Vivier Desage on row 4. Narwin Netipaton goes from row 5. We'll have Kevin Radu for company also on that row. Alejandro Suarez and Wirasak Ian Vitchan on row 6. They'll have Michael Gorecki and Rory O'Connor on row 7. And don't believe Gabriel Volpe will be out there. In fact, there's a handful of drivers who are not out there. Mohamed Menemni is not out there, and Alejandro Suarez also not out there. So 3 drivers missing from this grid, but the rest of them are out there. Guillaume, and it's all down to Mariano Alatorre and Luca Mann on the front row of this grid.
A total of 12 competitors that we get to see compete for the last time here this weekend. As part of the IAME Euro Series, we like to give a bit of extra time on track for those who didn't make the cut, unfortunately, coming to the superheat that we had this morning. And that will allow them to give themselves a little bit of fun to conclude a weekend that didn't go according to plan, to say the least. And having a look at some of the results from Mariano Alatorre, the Spanish driver who will be starting on pole position. 72 overall in qualifying. Didn't pick up the results he had been expecting. His best result coming into his race number 2, where he picked up 19 points, equivalent of a P18. So certainly not the race he had been and the scenario he had been expecting coming to this weekend. That's part of the deal. Sometimes racing can be hard at this level. One of the best in Europe, that's for sure. But let's see what those drivers can do in the course of those next 14 laps. And then after this consolation race, we'll take a bit of a break for everybody here, and we'll go back on, don't go anywhere, and put it in your schedule from 1 local time for the presentation of the first of the 3 finals, mini, junior and senior.
Right, here we go then. Last race of the morning phase, consolation time, and it's a good start for Mariano Alatorre, who holds it on that inside line and maintains the lead of this race for the MDC Racing team. However, he's under close supervision there from Victor Ageter and that crop promotion, who has slotted into second place. The driver who started 3rd in this race had that move on the inside. Luca Mann, you can see him as well. He's there in 3rd place as he's running around with the King and Garrity Motorsport team. And the Garrity Motorsport team, I should say. And he's pushed his way up nicely. Here we go, down the inside, change for the lead. Forceful, but fair, as Victor Ageter moves his way through. That rhymed, there you go. Poet, and I didn't even know it.
The fair bit, so as some drivers are trying to find a bit of space into that opening lap, and it's going the way of our leader to 34, 3rd on that grid. Victor Ageter from Crop Promotion. As once again, different racing lines out onto the track. The rain has stopped for quite a while now, but the racing line is still slightly drying out. No question whatsoever about any switch of position or switch of strategy when it comes to the tires. Still very much wet for everybody here, including that consolation race. Flipping the curb on the inside is the 252 of Pietro Gorecki, trying to get ahead of Luca Mann for P3. And it's the other way around, actually. Luca Mann is fighting for that position. Gorecki is trying to go once again the long way around, dropping a place while doing so to Merkelbach at the wheel of that Fusion machine. Watch out if he can try to hold on to that place into the hairpin of turn number 6 and 7 on the way to the hairpin. Ageter, in the meantime, almost a second advantage on Alatorre, the Spider who was in pole position. Into the hairpin in the middle, onto the grass. The 252 still battling along, going the long way around into the last segment of the track. Mann against Merkelbach, and the 264 at the wheel of that Car Republic machine, going into trouble by the look of it. Whereas when we can, unfortunately, driving for one of the satellite team of the Car Republic World, Kidix Racing team from Spain. And it seems to be that the Thai driver was running into a bit of a trouble. We will get to see if it was mechanical trouble or if he went sideways and off the track, but he's at the back end of the order at the moment, and yeah, he's not having the best of pace. We'll get back to that, but that might sniff like a little bit of retirement. And the driver from Kidix, you might have seen that as well with the new NASO panel that has been developed by the Berlin factory, used by Kia as well.
I'm just looking at the carts going through the order there. I'm already seeing some dropped noses, and one of those being the cart going through shot there, the 313, or it could be the 212, or it could be the 215. I can't really quite tell it, but Merkelbach looking like he might be in some trouble. But no, he's all fine in the 215. He's all good. He's pushing his way around nicely. I think it's actually Radeau in the 313, yes, in P6, who has got a nose cone. You can see that's dragging along the floor pretty unceremoniously. So he will pick up a 5-second time penalty at the end of this one. But eyes on this one. Gimes Merkelbach, really impressed still with Gimes over the course of this one. Like I say, chatting with him, running with the Fusion team. He's not a driver who has been karting for years. He is in the seniors. Oh dear, off the track there. That's not gone too well for Duvivier, or Sophia Duvivier Desage. She is tumbled down to the back of the order. But yeah, talking about Gimes Merkelbach, he started karting in November of last year.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's done no minis, no juniors, no real running seniors. He's literally jumped into this one. He's racing at a high level already, and the fact that he's done a race and he's in this sort of position, he's running in the top 5. Yes, okay, it's the Consolation race, but that's still an impressive drive for someone who hasn't got the experience of racing at loads of international circuits around Europe. But he's still put himself in a really strong position.
Here's
right, what happened to Sophia? Oh, I think just ran wide on that final corner. Yeah, frustration kicking in there, unfortunately kicking a load of mud and dust onto the circuit. But it's been a frustrating weekend, I think, for Sophia Duvivier Desage. She's not had the best results. She's always been... she's had those incidences here and there, and Torkis, you've got the results there on your screen. It's been for bleak reading, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely so. Qualifying didn't go according to plan in first place for her. 88 overall in qualifying, and she picked up her best result in a penultimate qualifying heat. That was 16 points for her, for Sophia, the equivalent of, it was a P21 on the road for Sophia. And another bit of trouble as the drivers keep on battling at the forefront. This is the 252. We are on board with Gorecki and Merkelbach. Let's have another look at that overtaking maneuver into turn number 1, clipping the curb as the 212 going the long way around. Luca Main trying to protect this position as much as he can, but that would allow the 215 of Gimes Merkelbach to come back at him and really sniffing around to try to get them at once. There's 4 drivers in the same picture pretty much, as the 212 is leading that train. Man in front of Gorecki, Merkelbach, and Kevin Rodui further back as well. Don't forget that he has a nose cone, at least the front fairing, in the wrong position. You can see him flapping on the tarmac as he goes along. Will be worth of a 5-second penalty, I'm afraid, for him. As run inside once again with a little bit of help from the coming to turn number 1. And switching those racing lines, not working quite yet. Gorecki is still holding on to that 3rd place overall. 6 seconds behind Alatorre in 2nd place.
Here is that moment earlier on. Big sideways moment there for
Lovely.
Peter Gorecki. Great kart control there as he runs around in 3rd place now after Luca Mann battling away with him. But Gorecki now in control. Merkelbach getting through past Luca Mann as well. And Mann on the Geraghty Motorsport machine just starting to drop backwards a little bit in this race. Now you're seeing drivers behind as well. You've got Warapong, Ian Vitchan as well from Thailand, having a very strong performance in this one. You can see now closing in on Luca Mann in P6. So that battle now starting to rage on your screens as they go through that final chicane. There they are as they go through. Again, a little bit of understeer into the exit. Very risky there, and that's the sort of driving style that you see here. A lot of people, they like to agitate the rear of the car to get it to rotate, to try and power through the corner, versus that understeer that you get in, and then that feels like it scrubs all your speed, and then then it grips, then you get it straight, and then you go. But then by that time, you've already got someone piling it down the inside of you in the next corner. So yeah, you do need to be careful with that one. But all the drivers here running around pretty nicely, and there you can see the likes of him there. Ian Vitchan looking very, very strong here. Trying to close through, big check over the shoulder. But running very well. The family name in 2 different drivers on this one. Of course, you've got the likes of Warapong, who's running around in P6, and also Wirasak as well in 12th place. Both of them running, like you're saying, in the Kiddix team, and doing a pretty sterling job in this one. Big sideways moment there for Mann. And Ian Vitchan might have a chance of getting past here, but is under the close company of Rodin just behind as well. And Rodin will probably concede that he's got the nose cone and probably thinking, right, I've got nothing to lose here. I will go for these moves if I see it justifiably. And he is going to go for the moves here as they go side by side. Ian Vitchan on the outside. He's going to back out of it, not wanting to fight that one and just holds on to that position. Nicely done from these two drivers.
Yeah, nicely done indeed. In the words of Max Verstappen, simply lovely. The overtaking is done. Let's see if he's going to be able to hold on to that position until the end. Lap number 8 out of 14. And Agater, we haven't seen in a while, is holding on to that lead, 1.7 seconds. Look at the rain radar. Shall we have some more rain coming this afternoon? You can see a lot of clouds coming our way in the coming hour. We're just on the verge of that cloud, rainy cloud that you can see on the radar. Does that mean bad weather coming our way? That's the question.
Well, I think for the lunch break, we might be clear. So no rain for us on the break, which is good. However, for the final, we may get a sprinkling again. So there we go. That'll make it nice and interesting. Luckily for me, I can stand inside when it comes to doing the podium, so it's all good. Right, we're on lap number 8, and these drivers here still battling away. This time, though, Redon getting past Luc Mann and going through in towards P5. However, yeah, we were talking about it all the way along. He has got that nose cone. It has dropped. It is flopping around there. So each position he gains, if he can't break away by 5 seconds, he will instantly lose again when he comes into Parc Ferme. But all the meanwhile, having a good little scrap here as Agiter's lead still just over a second. Alatorre actually did manage to take a big chunk of time out on that last sector. So battles happening thick and fast here, Guillaume. But for these drivers, this is just a nice little race for them here. Nice little hack. Just stretch your legs, use what you've brought, and just enjoy yourself.
Yeah, that's why we're seeing those overtaking maneuvers as well from the 313 of Rodui as well, no matter what happened to his front fairing. And run inside of Mann is Wenwikan, the 240 from Kiddix Racing Team. Lovely done from Wenwikan up into P6, and Luca Mann being put into the close of some of his rivals further back. Let's see if he's going to lose any more positions. He's running at the moment in P7 with Duvivier Sage just behind, Natifon just behind as well in P9 from Goreki Okono, and Wenwikan, the brother of Rorapong Werazak, running up the top 12, still on track at the moment. The 251 on your picture. For the back, Goreki trying to give a bit of a hard time to Natifon just in front of him. Does the battle for P9. Clipping the curb with that new NASA panel from the Parolin factory. On the way down to 10, number 8. A little bit of a slide. You can feel that the racing line is slightly drying. Some of the drivers trying to find a little bit of humidity on the outside of the racing line to try to cool down those wet tires. As we're back here with the 321, this is Alatorre, and you saw that right, Anthony. The gap had been cut down to half of a second, and now there's a switch for the lead. Well, Agater, we thought for a second that with almost 2-second advantage, that was going to be done and dusted, and the victory in the bag for him. But Alatorre, who had started from pole position at the wheel of that car product machine from MDC Racing, is having none of it. And look at Agater. Not only did he drop that P1 that we thought was his, but now he's being put under pressure by Goreki, the 252 coming at him. So certainly something going wrong a little bit for the Quark Promotion driver, because he seems nowhere in terms of space. Was he maybe asking too much of his tires in the early part of that race? Does that mean that the grip is gone for good, or that it's still so slippery at some part of the track that God knows why, but it doesn't feel comfortable anymore? That's a big question. But now look at him with the KME Racing driver just behind Pietro Korecki, who's giving me a hard time, and leading as well to Heimes Merkelbach to join the party as well. So we're going to have a 3-driver tussle on our way to the checkered flag very soon, and that goes the way of the Spaniard in the lead. Alatorre was able to pull up a bit of a gap, 1.1 second in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly that. On lap 10, going on to lap 11 now, big puff of smoke there out of the wagon. I'm not sure if that was just a bit of standing water touching a hot pipe on the kart there, as he did run slightly wide on that exit curb for Victor Agiter. As well, he's going to go wide there as well, and something's clearly not right with the front end of that kart. It does not want to grip up now, and yeah, he's going to lose out on another 2 places there. And Gorecki and Merkelbach will go through, as unfortunately for Sophia de Vivier, her race goes from bad to worse, as she just picks up a warning flag as well. Eyes on this one, though. I'm curious to know what's happening to Agitaire. Like you say, he's going into the corners and it's just understeering everywhere. Not like the normal understeering you would see from the wets. You see it in turn 1. He goes in and just nothing. It's not gripping. It's like the pressures aren't there.
It's like he's fighting with the wheel to keep the wagon onto the track, basically. And look at him lose the pace and lose momentum at every corner. He's not able to catch up with either Gorecki or Merkelbach battling along for that P2 finish. But yeah, quite surprising turn of event here, as Agitaire had been really dominating the first part of the race before losing it all completely. And now it all comes down to those two. Gorecki at the wheel of that 252 machine. Merkelbach from Fusion Motorsport. 2/10 of a second between the two. One started 5th, the other one started 6th, and now they find themselves fighting for the top 3 finish. The so-called podium of the Consolation race, even though they won't get to step on one. 1.5 second advantage for Mariano Alatorre, picking up the result he had been expecting to take at the end of that Consolation race after dropping a few places in the early stages, despite starting from pole position. Into then number 8 they come. Lap number 12 out of 14. The checkered flag is not far at all. We're getting near the conclusion of the Consolation competition. Then we'll go into a lunchtime break and we'll be back in no time for the last 3 races of the weekend for the opening of the IAME Euro Series 2025, starting with the mini, the junior and the senior. We're talking about the finals and the podium ceremony that will follow all those 3 races, so make sure to stick with us on the live stream, brought to you on Facebook, YouTube and Motorsport TV. Here we go for the last lap.
We are indeed, and Mariano Alatorre has got a commanding lead now of 1.7 seconds ahead of these two here, Peter Gorecki and Geims Merkelbach, who are going wheel to wheel on this last lap. And you know, for Geims Merkelbach, if he could end this race in P2, I can imagine there'll be a big smile on that face. The same, of course, for Peter Gorecki. But as they're going to work super hard in this one to get these karts to the end, you can imagine they're going to fight. And Merkelbach does look down the inside, but he's not close enough this time around as Gorecki takes that slightly defensive inside line in towards turn number 8. Alatorre is making it to the end here. That gap is overextending with these two going wheel to wheel. So he's absolutely fine and clear. Agitaire and Rodin still battling away. They've gone through. Actually, Victor Agitaire has disappeared from that position. In fact, he's tumbled down the order now, so I'm not sure where he's gone off the track. But crucially at the front here, Mariano Alatorre to the line. Last race of the day. He takes the win. Nicely done for him. Peter Gorecki finishes in 2nd place ahead of Geims Merkelbach. Kevin Rodin. Wadapong Ian Bichan finishes in P5 ahead of Sophia de Vivier Desage in P6. Luca Mann from Michael Gorecki. Rory O'Connor from Darwin Netipaton. And Wirasak Ian Bichan is trying to make his way to the line. He is still out there at this moment, circulating through turns 12 and 13. He is yet to see that checker flag, the same as Victor Agitaire, who I think is out of the race here, Gil. No idea where he went off the track, but he's nowhere to be seen. Here comes Wirasak Ian Bichan across the line now, finishing in 11th place. A good race nonetheless for the entire field. Mariano Alatorre from Peter Gorecki. Geims Merkelbach, 1, 2, 3 at the end of their day here in Cremona for round 1 of the IAME Euro Series.
Yeah, a little bit of a funny conclusion to that Consolation race. Let's take a look back at how it all played out with a good start from Mariano Alatorre. The pole sitter would drop a couple of places into those opening stages before taking the lead and the win back at some point, having onto the curb at the start of that race into that turn number 3 and 4 double right-hander. Not so much of a hairpin, but certainly a place of overtaking maneuvers. As on the inside in turn number 8, clipping the curb was the charge of the 234. That was Victor Agitaire, the crop promotion driver that would dominate the first part of the race before dropping for a reason still unknown to us and going to a DNF in the end. And the battle was still raging behind him as well, between some of the competitors out there into that Consolation race with the likes of Peter Gorecki, Geims Merkelbach, and unfortunately for him, the front fairing dropped for Kevin Rodri, who would still finish in P4. 2:15. Amos Meckelbach, the Dutch driver from Fusion Motorsport, battling his way around as well, as clipping the curb with a 3:21 of Mariano Alatorre, because the Spaniard, after dropping places, would find the pace back and the places back as well towards the end of that race, picking up that win of a very symbolic signification for the driver from MDC Racing. A way to finish on a high, what had been a difficult weekend, and a couple of drivers missing in Alejandro Suarez, Mohamed Neime, and Victor Agerter, who went on to DNF that race. He had been dominating for the first part.
Yes, indeed. Well, that is all she wrote for the time being. Finals are coming up next in around 40 minutes' time for Mini X30, Junior X30 and Senior X30. Make sure you don't miss those. Set your alarms. We'll be back with that one in a few moments' time. For us, right now, we'll take that short break. We'll be back with those finals. Do not go anywhere.